喺講緊嘅時候，咁當然啦，你由因為其實都有啲時間嘅一個 slide 落去嘅時候，咁只要你哋想問問題，舉手 ，OK， 隨時想問 ，OK， 唔好話我等一陣先，唔需要嘅，佢中意 interactive，OK， 好咁啊，等阿 Bobby 介紹下先。
好。咁今次咧，我哋其實咧係好高興邀請到阿 Mr. Taylor 過嚟啦。咁其實佢就係 InfoCrank 呢一個功率計嘅行嘅Managing Director， 咁同埋咧就係總工程師。咁其實咧，佢今次點解會嚟到香港咧？係因為香港有場地世界盃，咁佢係要過嚟咧，其實係同好多個國家嗰啲咁嘅科研開會。佢琴日已經係同瑞士啊，同埋德國嗰啲科研開會啊咁樣，因為其實咧係佢哋喺佢哋之前咧係出場公路車功率計啦，但係佢就因為英國隊闖入咗佢哋功率計之後咧，佢應英國隊嘅要求咧係再研發咗一啲場地車嘅功率計，咁而家差不多係世界各地咧都好多個國家咧都採用佢哋嘅場地車功率計。咁所以阿 Mr. Taylor 咧，其實佢嚟到時候咧，我同佢傾咧，佢對於功率計嘅所有嘅知識咧係非常之豐富。咁所以好正如好似頭先阿 Joseph 講咧，如果你哋有問題咧、有疑問咧，你哋隨時可以問佢。咁佢亦都講佢中意 interactive 嘅，你哋有即係感覺到有啲嘢唔係好明，你問佢，咁你哋可能有機會咧，因為佢曾經頭先同我都展示過好多呢啲數據咧。係我自己作為一個功率訓練嘅教練咧，我都覺得係哇好即係好難得嘅知識。咁所以你哋其實係可以盡情去問。咁佢咧，我覺得佢個人咧，佢越問得多咧，佢越俾得多嘢你嘅嚇。咁所以咧，你哋可以即係盡情咁聽，同埋去問，因為真係好難得嘅機會嚇。咁我哋歡迎阿 Mr. Taylor。咁而家交俾阿 Mr. Taylor。咁呢個我哋嘅翻譯 Alpha。因為即係我哋全程都會錄影㗎嘛，佢會做翻譯嘅，係啊。OK。
So as was said, I think my name is Bryan Taylor. I would like to start tonight by actually asking you what you would like to know about power meters, and I will try through the night to answer all your questions.Even while I tell you about the InfoCrank and the various things.
Bryan 佢話想先了解下你哋究竟有啲咩想關於 power meter 嘅問題先。佢想了解到你哋嘅情況之後，佢先至會再深入去解釋佢嗰個InfoCrank 嗰個詳細啲嘅資料。
So.You have questions, you must have come because you wanted to know something. What would you like to know?
你想知道有啲咩關於功率計嘅嘢先？佢想既然你哋嚟到呢一度，一定係對功率計有啲興趣，咁一定會有啲嘢想疑問。咁佢或者覺得喺呢一方面開始入手會比較容易啲理解，所以佢想問下你哋有冇啲咩關於功率計嘅問題想問翻Bryan。
我問先啦，係啊。咁功率計咁多款啦，點解會出現個誤差會爭到咁遠？
So there's so many types of different types of power meters. Why there's such a discrepancy between the data?
Okay, I will answer that one early in the presentation.
佢話佢一開始第一個 topic 就會講呢個 topic， 所以你有耐心少少，等佢答呢個問題。仲有冇其他人有其他問題
That's a good question.
據我知道喺市面上有好多個 reading 唔係準唔準確嘅問題，係佢並非線性嘅 output data。
線性
linear。
咁我講中廣東話都唔
strict 一個 strict linear 嘅啲。
So that he said it's not the accuracy problem mainly, but it's actually the linearly
reporting. It's regarding the data reading of the power meter. Okay, it's not actual the flat actual power because of it's not the fluctuations. It's talking about the reading of the power meter. Maybe it's not directly linear. Okay, maybe for some of the instance, actually maybe the cyclist is output is 300 volts.
Yes.
Okay, maybe it's 300. Okay, but in case it increase to 400 volts output, the power meter will not.
Okay,
In fact, that means the reporting is not linear or direct proportional to the actual input from the cyclist, right?
I think I understand what you're asking, but I'm thinking it's related also to the accuracy in some sense, and the types of.
Partly interrelated.
Okay. If I have not answered your question, through them, ask me again, and I will come back round to it. That's the easiest way. Okay. So I will take that into my head as well.
佢話會遲啲再深入解釋翻。
點樣睇 N+ 同埋藍牙嗰個傳輸嗰個穩定性咁樣嘅嘛？即係睇下佢會有啲咩意見咁樣對兩種。
佢話 how do you look the difference between ANT plus receptors and receptors?
Okay. I will do that early as well. Okay. Before I forget.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be interactive. I'm here for you. I'm not here for me. Okay, so if you want to stop, ask questions. If I hear a language I don't understand, he will tell me what it means, and I will try and explain things as we go. But you don't have to just keep quiet and fall asleep or anything like that.
我想問一個問題喎。有一啲人嗰個主張咧就話，我用一個功率計，佢係唔準確嘅。不過我只係用呢個功率計，咁究竟即係佢覺得唔準確，但係因為我只係用呢個功率計嘛，咁佢對於呢一種即係佢覺得如果係就算唔準確，因為佢都只係用呢個功率計。咁所以佢覺得係可以適合嚟訓練嘅，咁佢會點睇
So for example, if a cyclist is using an inaccurate power meters, but he's only using that's the only power meter he's using. So he gets the relative data up and down, and based on this relative data, to do the training,
Is it valid? Yeah. I will. I will touch on that once again in the earlier part, in around the middle of the discussion. So this issue that was just raised then is about the definition for accuracy actually. I will touch on that in a few minutes' time, just to get the definition. I don't have a slide on it. I've taken the slide out, so sorry I can't give you a picture of it.
佢會解答呢個問題不過會喺解釋咗之前嗰啲問題之後再。因為佢話佢冇準備呢啲資料，不過佢會。
In fact, I may as well describe it right now, right up front, because on here, the very first thing it says about the InfoCrank is that it is certified accurate. Now, in English, there's two words. One of them is the certificate, the certification. That is that it is tested by someone else, not us. Okay. And they are able to guarantee certain things.
佢都係改變佢主意，佢都係想第一點講翻呢一個準確性嘅問題，因為咧佢InfoCrank 佢最特別嘅地方咧，應該咧係認證過嘅準確度。其他人可能都有準確度，但係咧佢呢個嘅準確度咧係有應該有啲測試公司認證過佢嘅 accuracy 嘅，即係等於你去好多嘢都會，你買衫都會可能去做化驗。 因為佢呢個嘢係揾一啲公正嘅管理嘅察覺。
So the second word is the word accuracy, and accuracy is a legal definition, and it means two things. One of them is true, and the other one is precise.
我諗你都明啦，即係 accuracy 嘅有兩個重點指標，就係一就係準，同埋真實
同埋準確。
係咪先？你真實唔準冇用嘅，或者你準而唔真實都係冇用嘅。
So now the definition for true and the definition for precise, they're both different words. True means that it's like when you go to buy petrol for your car, 1 litre is 1 litre. 1 litre is a litre. It's measurable, it's tested. At the garage there is a sign that says when you buy 1 litre you get 1 litre. When you go to the shop to buy rice, 1 kilo is 1 kilo. It's not 1.1, it's not 0.9, it's not 0.95, it is 1. True is true.
我諗佢個重點想講嘅就係有一個方法去到量度呢一個準確度。佢嘅意思就準確，當然你可以話買入1升油的而且確，因為你有辦法去 measure 去測量呢個1升係幾大。咁但係即係重點係要有辦法去測量到呢一個準確度。咁當然亦都唔能夠含糊話1.1就係1咁之類。
So it doesn't have to be absolutely true. It has to be true to specification.
OK， 所謂嘅準確或者真實係可能冇辦法去define 呢樣嘢嘅。你點樣去 define 個真實？當然啦，只不過係用你有辦法嘅認知去到最準確嘅地方嗰度就叫 true， 就叫真理。但係真理係有時候係冇辦法去衡量得到乜嘢叫真理。咁佢只係話係用你哋認識嘅 knowledge 入面去到最準確嘅位置嗰度。
So if you have lots of money and you buy 1 kilogram of gold, it says 1 kilogram stamped and it's gold. It also says 99.99 gold. It's true. It is 1 kilo and it is at least 99.9 gold. There is still something else in it that is not gold. That's true.
佢用買999金嚟做一個例子，就係當然999金代表係100%，但係個準確度已經去到99.99。佢話所以呢個已經係喺現實嘅情況之下可以做到最準確嘅嘢。
Precise means that every time you buy, it's also true. It's test. So you go to test that you have that gold. You buy 100 kilos, each 101 kilos, and you test every single one, and every one is 99.9, 99.9, 99.9. If one of them is 99.0, it's an outlier. Okay. Some people call it consistency, but precise is the word. True is the actual measure and the I've forgotten the English words even. But true is as we said, and then precise is that all of the ones you test fall into that range.
Precise 即係精細度，即係佢嘅意思就話係啦，有啲人都話會講話慣性，但係佢話更加適合嘅 term 應該係精細度。佢就每一次你 test 嘅話都係99.9準確，而唔係其中一次係可能得99咁就叫肥佬。但係佢認為 true 嘅話應該係每一次嘅 test 嘅精細度都係可以達得到最接近嗰個數據99.9。
So the InfoCrank is not a toy. It's not even a bike part in a way. It is a measurement instrument. Therefore, it has to be to a standard, true and specified. In this case, to 0.5%. Okay, is the specification. So true means it's true absolutely to within 0.5%, and not at least 95% of the time every time it is true like that. That's the specification, true and precise.
OK， 咁佢覺得 InfoCrank 其實唔係一個玩具啦，亦都唔係一個單車嘅部件嚟嘅。佢會形容 InfoCrank 係一個量度儀器，唔係測量器，好似電子磅咁樣啦，類似。咁你係每一次有嚟測量你哋磅你哋究竟個 power 嘅情況嘅。咁所以精準度同埋呢個 accuracy 佢認為係非常之重要。
And just like the petrol station that's tested externally by independent people all the time.
即係好似油公司咁樣樣咧，唔係佢話俾你聽入億 Q 就得㗎啦。佢有其他可能係 FTS 啊、ITS 嗰啲會去驗佢哋嗰啲 measurement 有冇錯。你知政府都有好多呢啲睇下你有冇壓秤啊嗰啲咁嘅嘢啦。咁佢話都會有呢啲有佢呢個 InfoCrank 係有公證行去整呢啲測試呢啲。
So now, with that first question that I said we would tackle, it's the other power meters. You will often hear accurate to 2%, but the first thing is okay. This says 2%, but 2% of what?
佢嘅首先第一個問題咧就係話假如我哋用一啲個誤差度比較大嘅功率計，咁打個譬如佢話個功率嘅係誤差度有2% 嘅，但係個重點係2% 係 base on 啲乜嘢差唔多2%先。
But the funny thing is that the tricky people who say 2% don't understand that all of us actually understand the concept of true and precise, just like I described it, in everything else we do in life. Whether it's buying sugar at the shop, whether it's buying petrol or gold or whatever, we actually understand how measurement works.
基本上佢同
Well, what I'm saying is the normal person actually understands measurement the way I described it. But when someone says it's accurate to 2%, it's a stupid statement. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't.
OK， 咁當然啦，大家有一個共識，知道一個量度嘅方法，大家有個 common sense 知道應該係點樣去量度一樣嘢。但係當一個 statement 話俾你聽，佢嘅誤差率係2%，關於功率計嘅時候，佢認為呢個嘢根本就doesn't make sense，因為咧其實嗰2%咧冇清楚 define 係 referring to 嗰2% referring to 乜嘢嘢。
So, if in the world of power meters, most of the words are marketing words, not measurement words, except for the SRM. But even SRM does not tell you, you will not find anywhere that they are tested by anyone who is not them.
OK， 咁大部分而家市場嘅功率計咧，重點都係放喺市場推廣嗰方面。其實唔似得 InfoCrank 咁，可能重點係講翻有關於功率嘅測試嗰方面。佢認為同類型嘅產品比較，只有 SRM 係比較接近佢哋嘅level， 但係咧 SRM 其實咧都從來冇公開過喺其他測試公司嗰度咧認證過 SRM 其實佢有幾準嘅，主要咧都係自己人測試翻自己人嘅。咁呢個係佢提出嘅
So I will explain more now in answer to the question about the consistency, that is having a consistent return instead of a true return, whether that's valid as we go through, because instead of picking on the other power meters, I will describe how you actually measure, and then you will see the problem with pretty well everything else.
OK， 首先第一個問題，阿 Bobby 提出個問題重點就係我哋用一個唔準嘅功率計 continuously 去做呢個訓練。不停都有誤差，同一個用一個實質上都比較準確嘅 parameter 嘅分別係見得到。咁佢會詳細解釋下嗰個當佢講咗呢個解釋之後嘅話，你哋會睇得到有咩分別。
So the InfoCrank was designed as a scientific instrument from the beginning. Its first job was to calibrate SRMs for the Australian Institute of Sport.
OK。點解會有 InfoCrank 咧 ？InfoCrank 其實最初設計出嚟嘅咧，其實係愛嚟測試 SRM 呢個 power meter
校正啊，
係校正。OK， OK， 校正翻佢有幾準確嘅，咁所以呢個係InfoCrank 嘅開始嚟嘅。
So then the head of the Australian Institute asked us to make it into a product, into a crank. It still is used as a dynamic calibration rig by the Australian Institute of Sport, the original.
OK， 開始嘅時候都係澳洲
體院
澳洲體院去叫佢哋去做呢個調教嘅。咁開始嘅時候已經 you start with the crane。
Yeah, it was done in a crank from the beginning, but it was used as a dynamic calibration rig so you could record the SRM while it was working. It's very complex.
用一個
動態嘅
形式去做一個校正嘅。咁但係做出嚟嘅都係一開始嘅時候都係用一個crane 嘅方，即係大頂嘅方去做一個動態嘅校正。
So we have measured SRMs, all the best SRMs in the world, because we do it for Great Britain as well.
咁就係我哋一開始嘅時候就主要係做一個校正嘅工作，所以佢係比較點講咧？佢成日都提出話佢係一個 measure instrument 嚟嘅 measure instrument。
So when we were asked then to build the crank into a product, things that you could use, we had to solve all the problems that the SRM has. We were never trying to solve problems for stages and these cheap things because they didn't exist, but not only that, they don't measure power anyway. So the SRM was built to solve the problems of SRM.
OK， 咁當我哋第一次有人提出希望將呢個佢哋 InfoCrank 做緊嘅嘢去做一個真正嘅產品嘅時候咧，咁佢哋重點嘅主要係去解決翻佢哋發現到 SRM 有啲咩問題，就同時間喺研發嘅過程中咧，就係重點去解決 SRM 嘅問題。
We had dinner last night with the coach from Switzerland, 2 coaches from Switzerland, and we were talking about the various products. And the reality is that at the top level in cycling, there has never been recorded power, the absolute top level, because most countries took the SRMs off the bike for the World Championship because they break or they're affected by the TVs and so on. But we were talking last night on the road, and all the top riders, when they're climbing on the final climb in the Tour de France, the TV camera is there, the SRM doesn't work. So there's no recordings of the best rides in the world for power. So we had to overcome things like that.
咁佢琴晚同咗瑞士嗰個教練食飯啦，咁佢提出咗有啲問題，其中一個最大嘅問題就係原來最 top 嗰啲 level 嘅單車選手咧，其實係從來都未正式有一個測量過佢哋嘅 power， 尤其是譬如喺法國公路賽嘅時候環法嘅時候，其實因為 SRM 可能有好多 deficiency， 例如可能有受電視嘅電波啊嗰啲影響啊，佢根本讀唔到嗰個數據出嚟，亦都可能喺比賽嘅途中個柄因為可能唔係好穩陣，亦都試過爛，所以咧大部分嘅國家隊咧喺比賽嘅時候咧都會將 SRM 掹翻出嚟換翻一個實淨啲嘅環境過去比賽，所以基本上咧好諷刺地咧大部分最 top 嘅 cyclist 喺比賽嘅時候咧，佢哋係冇辦法讀到任何嘅數據，冇記錄嘅。
So the accuracy is just one issue. It's an interesting issue, and we could talk all night about just accuracy, but it's just one issue. The data drift is another. So most certainly the SRM, but most power meters, 100 watts here, 2 hours later is not 100 watts. It might be 110, it could be 90, it could be anything. It's really simple. There's several things for data drift. Sorry if I'm making a long sentence, but when you're pushing down on the crank, if I keep pushing down on my glasses like this, in the end the glass, it doesn't bounce back all the time. That's called hysteresis. And so most of the products, they have hysteresis. And that means that what you're measuring is now different to what it was when it was bounced back. Does that make sense? even in my language. So.
OK， 佢個問題嘅重點就係佢發現最大嘅問題可能係一個記憶嘅問題，可能金屬記憶嘅，金屬入面金屬記憶。總之佢話好似例如佢攞個眼鏡翻咁樣，佢當佢 bang 幾十次嘅時候，佢根本唔會回彈到佢原本最初嘅情況。所以咧，佢唔回彈嘅情況之後再讀嘅數據嘅話，佢就唔準確。所以變咗咧，佢就算呢一刻SRM可能準確，但係最大嘅問題1個鐘頭之後，當你 bang 咗幾廿萬次之後嘅時候，嗰陣時嘅數據仲唔準確？呢個係一個問題。
That's a really big problem for pedals. Really big problem because it's the smallest spindle in the bike with the very smallest bearings.
因為踩踏係更加大嘅問題，因為個 bearing 好細。
即係腳踏式嘅功率計，即係。
腳踏式嘅功率計。
腳踏式嘅功率。
And it's a problem in the Spider where the SRM is because if you think about it, if I push on the crank here, the Spider is being twisted.
OK， 佢話SRM 嗰個蜘蛛式啊。Spider 式嘅，即係喺個爪嗰度，嗰個爪嗰度，嗰個問題都係好大問題，因為你每次壓落去嘅時候咧，佢會咬咗，佢會拖啊，即係唔止一個 direction 扭，佢哋淨係扭力啊，直頭有。
即係會有扭曲，會有扭曲。
Weatherproof is important because we ride on the road when it rains sometimes.
當然啦，天氣亦都有可能影響。
Temperature steady is critically important because we ride in the morning and we ride through the morning and we ride in the afternoon and temperature actually changes the metal, so you have to be able to read at any temperature.
咁佢考慮埋温度嘅差距咧，對於個準確度嘅影響，因為好明顯地熱脹冷縮，朝頭早同夜晚黑踩嘅時候温度嘅轉變，令到個金屬可能都會變大變細，咁變大變細咗之後，個準確度又點樣可以可以保持得到個準確度，都係嗰啲重點。
And the biggest problem was that amongst everything else that they kept breaking, so we had to develop something that was durable that would keep lasting. And the crank is the strongest part of the bike as well as being the right part of the bike.
咁點樣令到佢更加耐用，當然亦都係最緊要嘅一點啦。咁尤其是佢之前講過國家隊都唔敢用人哋嗰啲，佢係其中一個重點嘅問題就係當你唔穩陣嘅時候就。
So in order to build this, there was a much bigger list, but we had to do all of that. So it wasn't designed as a product to sell; it was designed as a product to win gold medals.
佢哋嘅目標好遠大啦，咁唔係諗住攞嚟賣喺市場嗰度主力係市場嘅 product 嚟嘅，最終嘅目標佢哋係希望幫助運動員爭取到好成績，係攞到奧運金牌。
However, I've been a cyclist all my life, and in my view, if we build something for gold medals, we build it for ordinary people as well.
咁佢本身係一個單車選手啦，咁佢話既然做得俾奧運金牌嘅選手，咁當然都會賣俾啲普羅大眾。
Just a little side thing, we have a very strong research and development relationship with British cycling. And because the product is so good, they wanted to sort of keep it for themselves. And in the very first discussions, I said there's no deal whatsoever unless everything we ever do for you is available for the rest of the world.
Who want to keep themselves?
British cycling.
OK， 英國國家隊最初咧想將呢個精確度嘅儀器咧係據為己有嘅，咁但係當然啦佢冇應承到，佢話我幫你做嘅任何嘢我都會公平地同各位share 分享呢樣嘢。
We have a very good relationship now and we share lots of stuff, but back then they were very aggressive.
最初嘅係咯，英國隊就想據為己有。
So that was what we had to do to start. Now I'll tell you a little bit about how it actually works. When you pedal a bike, you're pushing down on here. If you can see it here, this is actually the force line that occurs. So as you push down on the pedal, you are effectively bending the crank. and the forces are running up the edge into the bike. The absolute reality of it is that we are, as riders, we are connected to the bike by our ankle down to the pedal. The pedal has nothing to do with pushing the bike forward, it's just a platform for your feet. Okay? We're connected here, and we're connected at the hip to the seat. And so what we're measuring is all of this plus that. That's what's being measured. Try that.
咁呢個係個我估計係佢嘅 stress 圖啦。咁當你踩踏嘅時候，你會睇到紅色線就係主要受力嗰個位置。相信上高係 tension，下低係 compression 啦。咁跟住咧佢話咧但係咧最主要咧佢唔係淨係 measure 緊呢一個病入面嘅數據嘅。其實主要係你個人坐咗喺張凳上高度，由 hip 開始一路到膝頭哥啦，到腳眼啦，成個嘢一齊去 measure 嗰個。
So lots of people think that there's stress, the force is in the pedal, for instance. But as I said, your foot is just on the pedal. The pedal is at a different angle to the crank. When you push down, the pedal is like this. When you get to the bottom, the pedal is like that. It's all different angles. Okay. It has nothing to do with the force in the crank.
基本上佢話其實我哋最緊要 measure 嘅話係隻腳嘅啲 force 嚟嘅。當佢不停咁轉緊嘅時候咧，咁其實動力嘅主力來源咧，其實唔係喺嗰個柄入面嘅，所以我哋重點應該講翻喺個
唔係佢其實應該係話重點嘅力唔係喺個腳踏度。你施加喺腳踏度嘅力咧就並唔係向前嘅，施加嘅力咧就應該喺紅色嗰條線先係令到嗰架單車向前嘅力。佢哋就係要量度呢一個力。係。
OK。
係。
sorry 更正。咁阿 Bobby 解釋好清楚，我唔使補充應該。
即係佢哋要量度嘅就係紅色嗰條線嘅力啊，應該就係。Tangential force 啊，即係。
You're measuring this.
This is called the load in technical. This is a torque transducer. This is the load path. That is the path that the load is taking. The load path. So it's blue here because there's no load.
No.
That's why we put the electronics in there.
Can you repeat a little bit more about the pedals?
The pedal action is called a vector, which is why Garmin named their pedal Garmin Vector. The vector has no relativity to the power that's going in the crank. It's the place where your foot is just effectively being held to the bike. It's not where you can't measure the force there.
佢嘅重點佢話其實唔應該focus 喺嗰個腳踏嗰度嘅，因為個力其實基本上亦都唔簡單啲講，佢認為因為譬如咁講，你個嘢轉咗落係下低嘅時候，你可能都俾緊力落去個腳踏嗰度，但係嗰個力其實係唔係向前嘅力，向前去緊推緊架單車㗎嘛，係咪先？所以你落咗落樓下嗰度繼續 measure 佢嗰個力係冇意思嘅，所以佢認為個measure power 嘅重點其實依然係喺個柄嗰度為主。
補充少少啊，個腳踏就以而家呢個方位，如果你向前壓，其實同架車會喐動係冇關係嘅。但係如果你係度嗰個力嘅時候，根本就係俾緊嗰隻髀嘅力，唔係俾緊落架車嗰個燈嘅力。所以因為個腳踏一路喺唔同嘅時間都有唔同 angle， 但係實際上有幾多力係真正你嚟踩架車咧，根本就冇關係，因為佢只要量隻髀係正正式式落到個車嘅力，
先至係令到架車向前嘅力，應該係嘛？應該啱啦，係啦，冇錯啦，可以再講啦，係可以嘅。
Yep, that's fine.
因為呢個好多好 technical。
I want you to understand one really important thing. The bike doesn't matter. The crank doesn't matter. We're measuring the athlete. Watts equals energy equals joules, kilojoules, joules per second. It's a time-based energy usage. We're measuring you, not this. This is an attachment to you on a bike. Okay? but it's you that we're measuring.
佢主要想講翻個重點係，我哋係量度緊一個運動員嘅power， 而唔係量度一條病嘅 power， 或者個力食咗落去嗰條病嗰度。所以最重要、最重要，可能佢想俾大家想人性化一啲，即係我哋嘅重點唔可以放落去一啲唔正確嘅位置，而其實我哋最重要係點樣肯定個人俾咗出嚟嘅嘢，我哋係 measure 緊人俾出嚟嘅嘢，而唔係量度嘅一件死物發生緊嘅事。
So the crank is an extension of your leg. It's part of the lever that is being used to take the bike forward. And because we can't put the implant into your leg, we put it in the bike. But we're measuring you.
咁佢嘅重點係啦，個腳係呢個病係你嘅腳嘅伸延落去啦。咁所以佢就認為呢一個嘢係最準確嘅地方係去量度你嘅 power。
So this is the only place that you can measure the force to drive the bike forward. Okay?
所以佢認為呢一個先係最準確嘅地方去量度你，因為呢個係你腳係啦唯一嘅地方，因為你腳嘅伸延嚟嘅。其他嘅地方嘅話，佢認為都係唔係將個力唔係直接俾落去推動你架單車向前嘅。
So now I'll look just at the spider or the chain ring for a minute. You would think that if I put force in the crank, that force is coming round the chain ring. It's not at all. It's going in the bike. Okay? I'll give you an example. Team Great Britain asked us to build the spiders, this part, for the track crank for their tandem. And they worked out that the amount of force that's coming up on a tandem in the Olympic Games is 700 Newton meters. It's a lot. Just
OK， 英國佢應該嘗試下，為咗證實呢個位置係spider 位唔係最正確嘅嘢咧，佢哋 set 咗一啲instrument 落去測試下，究竟有幾多嘅力係可以轉化到落去呢個 spider 度。
So we listened to them, they're engineers, PhDs, all this sort of stuff. We listened, and we thought 700 Newton meters. So this here is built for 500, which is 3,000 watts. That's 60 revs. Okay, so this is built for that, but they wanted 700. And we thought about it, and then we tested it with some other engineers and other measurement. There's no extra force in the spider when two people are pushing it at the same time. Whereas most people just think, well, there must be two people are pushing. But it's not technically correct. The force has gone.
Sorry, it's a bit long.
It was a bit long. Like basically, so in the spider, the force that is coming into the bike isn't sitting in the spider anymore. It's gone to the road.
佢話咧最大嘅問題咧就係咧，當你俾力落去個餅嗰度咧，當啲人以為呢個餅嘅所有嘅 force 都可以轉化到去個 spider 度，其實呢個係唔準確嘅。當佢哋測試出嚟嘅話咧，應該有好多嘅力量咧係 lost 咗嘅。OK， 所以咧去到個餅嗰陣時候咧，已經係消失咗一啲部分。
So the reason I told you that is that there are at least 4 different types of power meter. There are power meters in pedals. There are power meters like the SRM, the Quark, the Power to Max, all sitting in the spider. There's one sitting on the back wheel, but we'll forget about that for a while. And there's actually one on a chain ring. And there's a whole bunch of them that they glue on the back. So the force line's coming up here, but they glue it on the back here. Okay, stages and others. And so I just taught you where you measure. I think what you might be able to see is that there isn't no possibility that any of them are measuring the force that goes into the crank.
咁佢解釋咗好多唔同嘅儀器啦。而家有啲人喺腳踏嗰度裝測試儀器啦，有啲人喺 個齒片嗰度都有，齒片嗰度都有啦，甚至乎喺後輪嗰度啦。咁佢話但係其實亦都最 common 嘅其中一個地方就係黐喺呢度嘅後面嗰度測試呢個力量。但係好明顯，如果你哋睇到呢個圖畫，你哋知道其實佢放咗一啲根本唔受力嘅位嗰度。咁佢嘅疑問就係根本都冇辦法測試得到準確嘅power出嚟。
That's why I don't like to talk about other power meters because they're not power meters. They are calculation tools. They're calculating what the watts might be. Okay? Whether they're in the pedals, whether they're here, whether they're on. Actually, the power tap on the back is a torque meter. The Garmin is, I think, it does measure torque, but it's measuring torque in the wrong place. It's measuring in the crank, in the pedal. Sorry, but they are not power meters. Power is watts. Power is the force from you, joules per second that you are using. It is not here, it's not there, and it's not here. It's here.
咁佢最大嘅問題就係其他嘅產品咧都係唔係喺正確嘅位置嗰度啦。佢認為其最大問題係其他你哋都有數據嘅，但係嗰啲數據好大程度上咧係估算出嚟，而唔係真係量度出嚟嘅。咁因為根本就冇辦法會喺一啲唔正確嘅位置嗰度可以量度到準確嘅 power 出嚟嘅。咁佢話雖然譬如加密喺 pedal 嗰度真係量度緊你哋嘅數據，但係量度緊一個錯誤嘅數據俾你哋。咁所以基本上係幫唔到你哋揾得到你哋真正嘅 power 出嚟。
So that makes a lot of things very, very easy. If they're calculation machines, mathematical models, what we all know about mathematical models is that they can be right some of the time. But the more variables you put into the equation, the less often they are right. So it is possible to have something that's quite accurate in the laboratory, and it's almost impossible to have something that's accurate when we ride on the road with a mathematical model.
OK， 其他嘅產品咧，因為佢係用一個比較精確度嘅計算或者估算出嚟嘅 power。當然啦，喺一個室內嘅好完美嘅環境情況之下咧，係有機會可以量得到比較相對嚟講準確嘅接近嘅數據。但係最大嘅問題就係喺我哋大部分嘅單車手入面，你都唔係喺一個完全 perfect 嘅環境度踩單車。當你喺路嗰度，當你越多variable 即係嗰啲變化嘅情況之下咧，咁你就冇辦法個數據已經冇辦法估算得到好準確嘅嘢出嚟，所以咧佢估出嚟嘅嘢咧會越嚟越準。
So one reason that SRM is in fact so good is there's 30 years of mathematics and algorithms, because algorithms they get better and better if you keep working on them. Okay, that's one reason it's so good, and that's why Quark is so bad, and why Power to Max is so bad, because they've only got 5 years for Power to Max and 7, I think, for Quark.
佢話點解 SRM 係咁好嘅？因為佢哋有30年嘅歷史。當你收集到大量嘅數據嘅時候咧，你嗰條公式 mathematic 嘅公式係會越嚟越修正，越嚟越準確。其實可能係一個統計學嘅某程度上嘅嘢出嚟嘅，去估算得到你嘅 power 係點樣。咁你收到咁大嘅 database， 當然你嗰條公式就越嚟越準確。當其他嗰啲可能得5年嘅產品嚟講，相對嚟講咧係越嚟越即係相對嚟講係比較差啲，因為佢哋個計算嘅公式係唔同。
But in the mathematical models, they're only accurate within a range, often small, sometimes a very small range. And so even the best, even the SRM, every single SRM is different to every other single SRM. That's the first truth. If you've got several, you know this. But they're all different. But and not just because they drift, they are only accurate within a certain range. Every SRM is different within different ranges.
佢嘅準確度咧，仲係基於一個好狹窄嘅定義。OK， 所以咧佢會發現，就算大家都係一個 SRM， 唔同嘅 SRM 嘅話，由於佢哋嗰個狹窄嘅定義係定位唔一樣嘅話咧，佢出嚟嗰個計算出嚟嗰個數據咧，都會係唔一樣。
So I like using I'm not against SRM. I like using them as an example because they're the best of anyone who does measurement. So I don't want to talk about the worst at all. At all, there's just nothing to say that is good, and I prefer to say things that are good. So we're going to move on, but we just touched that consistency thing. There is a real problem with consistency, logically now, just use your head for a minute. There's a real problem with consistency if you don't know what true is. If you think that it's consistent, why have a piece of measuring equipment at all? Just think.
I'm lost, sorry.
Okay, when I was young and 18, we had nothing on the bike. Nothing whatsoever. There was a white line on the road and you're supposed to be first. So you use this and that. But now we have all this equipment,
Okay.
but it's not true, so what do you know?
OK， 我明白啦。佢話佢哋指，如果人係可以每一次都控制得到自己係好 consistently 輸出一樣嘅 power 嘅話，其實我哋根本唔需要用 power meter。但係可惜人唔係咁樣，每次都會唔準確，所以我哋先要需要一個儀器去量度我哋究竟個 power 係幾多。咁但係假設你用一個唔準嘅儀器嚟去量度呢個power， 咁究竟個意義係喺邊度？
So it is true that some power meters can be quite consistent in certain areas, but in truth, you don't know that. You can't know.
當然佢唔排除市面上有啲 power meter 係可以好 consistent 嘅，咁但係問題就係你根本唔知道準唔準確，咁唔通你即係做手神究竟邊個係準邊一個唔準？咁你唔知道準唔準嘅時候，根本你就冇辦法去。
There are none whatsoever that are accurate on instantaneous torque at all.
instantaneous。
That is, touch that and it will record.
哦，即時，即係冇一個係冇，佢話就算係市面上冇一個即時嘅準確嘅 power meter 存在。
Only this machine here. But we keep moving. I'm not going to go through all of this, except to say that in the crank there are 6 different forces. And if you are not measuring properly, you will be measuring all of them. And the mathematical problem that you have is then to work out which is which. Does that make sense?
其實佢話呢睇呢一圖咧，我哋總共有6個唔同方向嘅力可以去得到一個 power 嘅。最重要嘅重點嘅問題就係、究竟邊一個力係先係我哋重點要去量度，而係可以轉化到係做呢、個power 嘅。因為咧，當你去 measure 咗啲，你去量度一啲唔需要，亦都係唔會推動你嘅單車向前嘅力學嘅話，係完全係冇意義嘅。
Yep, the only force that you want to measure is the force that drives the bike forward. That. All the other forces doesn't matter.
基本上話最重點就應該都係你揾
Number one.
number one。
It's called the tangential load.
唯一嘅重點嘅 force， 我哋需要量度嘅就係呢一個向下壓落去大頂嗰個曲柄嗰度嗰個力，因為其他嗰啲扭力啊、轉力啊、向邊啲力嘅話，其實基本上唔會推架單車向前嘅。就算你俾幾大力、俾幾大 power 落去嘅話，都係冇意義嘅。所以都唔應該要去量度呢啲冇用嘅數據。最緊要唔好confuse 嗰個 reading 出嚟。
So, just quickly, the force here in the spider, there is no tangential force in the spider, which tells you firstly that an SRM, for instance, does not measure tangential force. It measures another force that's not here, but it's much better than it down in the pedal. But the force is called shear stress. Have you just try that word? Shear stress.
Shear stress physics SHEAR
剪力，
即係搣開個力啊！
This is shear stress.
剪力啊！
即係
As it turns round, it
呢
crumbles.
個咁樣掹開個擘開嗰個力嚟嘅。咁SHEAR 即係佢 SRM 唔係用一個 tangential force， 即係 tangential force 即係啱啱我90度角壓
切向力
嗰個力嚟嘅。
切線力。
但係喺 Spider 入面咧根本冇呢一個 tangential force， 所以冇辦法量度嘅。佢 instead 佢係量度一個 搣開佢嗰個力嘅 shear force 我都唔知點中文係咩。
So it sort of says if there's this much shear force, well, we think there's this much tangential force. It's a calculation.
佢都係估出嚟㗎啦，老實講
simulation
係啦，佢用呢個當然佢認為係用 tangential force 係最準確嘅量度方法，但係用 shear force 佢哋係用
運算
係啦，運算翻反計翻出嚟，究竟 tangential force 係幾多？
It's very good mathematics.
都係數學，都係。
But the point of the previous slides is it's a difference between mathematics and measurement. The InfoCrank is about measurement. Everyone else is about some mathematics.
佢都係強調啦，InfoCrank 係一個量度嘅儀器，而其他嗰啲嘢咧係 basic 我哋係運算嘅儀器嚟嘅。
Another difference with InfoCrank and our company is that we don't sponsor British Cycling. We are partners, R&D partners with British Cycling and with the UCI and with others as well. They pay us for what they get.
重點之中嘅重點 ，OK， 佢唔俾錢 sponsor 任何嘅國家隊或者任何嘅團體嘅，佢哋只係一個 partner 形式同 UCI 同埋英國單車協會。調翻轉頭，因為佢哋嘅專長。UCI 同埋British Cycling 咧係俾翻錢去贊助翻佢哋，共享翻個成果出嚟嘅。
So I'm here for the World Cup to help some of the teams with what they, believe it or not, they don't know what they need to read from the InfoCrank. So we're helping them. That's what we were talking about with them last night. So we work with the teams. They buy the cranks. No one gets them for free.
You just say. My implication is not only normal data we can get from it, right?
Oh yes, there's much more.
佢琴日同嗰啲team 嗰啲coach 嗰度傾翻啦，咁當然啦所有就算國家隊嘅話都要俾錢同我哋買呢一個儀器嘅。咁佢哋讀到嘅數據嘅話咧，佢都嘗試解釋翻俾教練聽點樣去運用翻佢哋讀得到嘅數據。
So what we tried to do from the beginning was much more than a power meter. So the power meter, with the InfoCrank, the power meter is obsolete. It's a totally new standard of what you can do in measurement. For instance, you can start to work out, are you actually getting stronger? I mean, are your muscles getting stronger? You can measure that. What is your torque? How does it change over time? Your pedaling speed. We talked a lot about that at dinner last night. The coaches think it's the most important thing. How much energy do you actually use to pedal the bike? There's all of these things are actually able now to be measured, considered, analysed ultimately, and worked out into your program.
基本上，佢認為一個準確嘅儀器先可以幫助得到運動員去解讀翻，或者教練解讀翻呢啲問題嘅。例如你究竟有冇真正係強化咗佢個肌肉啦，或者你究竟嘅踩踏嘅速度有幾快啦？究竟你用咗幾多 energy 去
Expand means to use.
究竟用咗幾多 energy 去踩呢個嘅踩踏等等之類嘅問題，咁你用到幾多嘢？係啦，佢認為一定要有個準確嘅嘢，先至可以幫助到準確去解釋到啲教練或者運動員嘅問題。
So British Cycling, for instance, now believe that the InfoCrank is so accurate that they can tell which tyres to use for which competition, and which, if they want to change the position of the rider between now and the final, they can work out what to do because the accuracy is there.
聽落都好正。OK， 因為佢嘅準確度嘅話咧，令到佢教練或者運動員可以好 precisely 知道所有嘢嘅分別，去調教佢嘅單車，甚至乎連條胎 究竟係咪可以換呢條胎可以令到佢更加快脆，或者更加 effective 去踩？以前因為個數據嘅誤差度嚟講，佢哋冇辦法去聽得到咁微細嘅 difference。但係而家 InfoCrank 可以俾到咁細緻嘅嘢嘅話，甚至你換條胎嘅分別都會可以準確得到量錯得到。
However, they do have lots of PhDs and other people to do the work, but we give the same information, more information actually, to normal riders on the system that British Cycling get. They get nothing special from us in that. The same information that we give to Team GB is available for everyone.
都係啦，佢俾出嚟你嘅 data 嘅話，唔會話因為佢係國家隊會另外俾多啲特別嘅 data 嚟嘅。普通嘅消費者嘅話買呢個 InfoCrank 嘅話，同樣會俾翻同國家隊一樣待遇咁多嘅information。
And funny enough, after the Olympics, British Cycling will then change from their recording systems onto ours, so they'll get the same as everyone else then.
OK， 咁啱啱英國國家隊已經改咗一種同佢同一個測試嘅系統㗎啦，已經改咗。
So we have a crank for the road, and I was asked a question about what information can you get. Okay, so I'm going to talk firstly about how power meters work in normal mode, how they work. Ask me any questions if I don't give it to you enough, then I'll explain, because the InfoCrank does that, but then I'll explain what else it does.
佢會開始細緻啲咁解釋個 power meter 嘅會有啲咩 information 出嚟啦，同埋其他 power meter 嘅分別。如果你有咩問題嘅話，隨時發問。
So most power meters are made to fit in with Ant Plus. And even the Bluetooth ones still fit with Ant Plus because all of the Garmin's are Ant Plus. Garmin owns Ant Plus, so everyone bills for Ant Plus even if they've got Bluetooth.
因為Garmin嘅普及性啦，個碼錶嘅普及性，咁而 Ant Plus 應該係 owned by 呢個Garmin嘅，所以咧，因為雖然市面上有啲傳送嘅方法係 Bluetooth。但係咧，因為 Ant Plus 嘅普及性咧，佢哋始終就算有 Bluetooth 都好咧，都會加埋 Ant Plus 落去嘅。
But doesn't matter whether you're Bluetooth or whether you're Ant Plus, they all work the same way. But there is a difference, a big difference, which I'll explain now. Ant Plus is like a broadcast, so you can have Ant Plus working. You can read it on your bike. A coach can read it next to you on the track. You could have the car behind you could read it. Everyone could read what you were doing, okay? Who was linked in.
Ant Plus 同埋 Bluetooth 最大嘅分別就係 Ant Plus 係一個廣播嘅形式嘅，即係任何人嘅話喺你附近嘅話，其實都可以讀得到你嘅數據嘅。
But Bluetooth is direct, one to one. Okay.
藍牙就分別就係好似打電話咁樣，即係 one to one 嘅啫。咁你冇辦法係廣播嘅形式嘅。
So Bluetooth is actually a better messaging service, but only one thing can get it.
佢認為Bluetooth 係比較，因為係 one to one。
And it's not suitable on the bike because usually you want to have more than one get it. For instance, and it's one of the problems that on the bike we have a different world to the real world out there sometimes.
雖然佢認為 Bluetooth 係可以 one to one，但係有陣時候可能有啲情況係需要多一個人去接收呢啲數據嘅。
So think that you're on Zwift, and you link your Bluetooth to Zwift. You can't then link it to your phone at the same time. But with Ant, you could have it with Zwift. You could have it on your phone, and you could also have it on a head unit in front, and you could be recording it on your computer.
雖然佢認為 Bluetooth 係好啲嘅傳送方式啊，但係因為佢個廣泛性係差過 Ant 嘅話，
係話你踩 Swift 嘅時候，
係咯，
其他嘢都一齊。
所以佢認為即係 Bluetooth 係有佢嘅好處，但係咧最大嘅壞處就係佢唔能夠同時間多個嘢可以使用，所以佢認為呢個係。
So it's actually obvious InfoCrank for it to exist has to be compatible, and it is compatible. And we use Ant Plus. that's enough to say about it at the moment. But I'm not against either of them. They're just different, but they're just messaging systems.
So InfoCrank has both.
No, it only has ANT+.
考慮到呢個情況嘅話，所以佢而家InfoCrank話個普及性，所以佢都係用翻ANT+ 嘅傳送形式。佢唔覺得有分別，佢只係一個傳送嘅方式，所以但係個普及性ANT+好啲，所以佢用InfoCrank。
But that means that it works with everything that you would get normally on any power meter, program, training peaks, Zwift, Garmin's, whatever. It works exactly the same. Doesn't matter if some of them say they do Bluetooth or whatever. It just doesn't matter. It's just a radio frequency sending radio signals, and we use the ANT+ protocol.
因為其實個傳送嘅方式都唔係太重要嘅，咁佢認為普及性係比較緊要啲，咁所以佢哋係用ANT+嘅。
There is one difference that we do say, and that is people riding InfoCrank should set their head unit to 1 second intervals, not 3 or 5, because smoothing, we don't believe in smoothing. We believe in you getting the result of the pedal turning around, the crank turning around. Smoothing, it's an accurate number, you should get your number.
因為 how fast do you
256 times a second. It's already smooth.
咁InfoCrank準確咗係1秒鐘係可以讀256次嘅。OK， 所以當你用到加棉嘅時候咧，佢 recommend 你哋應該用每1秒嘅讀數
記錄一次咯，
記錄一次，而唔係通常加棉都叫你 every 3 seconds 嘅嘢，因為其實佢嘅準確度佢1秒都讀256次，點解你唔每1秒都去讀，而會去每3秒先去讀一次？當你每3秒一次先讀嘅時候，佢中間嗰條數就係拉條 curve 出嚟㗎。佢話既然你都有呢個數據喺度，點解你唔去讀一次，而走去拉 curve？所以佢話咧如果你用 InfoCrank 嘅話，嘗試調教你個嘅 meter， 去教到佢每秒鐘嘅去閲讀佢
記錄一次。唔係㗎，佢有啲叫做聰明嘅記錄。咁咧，佢只要smart recording， 即係當你個柱嘅數量唔夠嘅時候咧，佢就會轉成5秒、10秒咁樣，將你啲數據圓滑咗佢嘅。咁嗰個其實係唔準確嘅，所以個標頭一定要用翻1秒記錄一次先準確。係。
So the InfoCrank works by recording the torque, the pressure. It will record any force on here above around about 10 or 15 grams. So that would be recorded. Okay. It's recording everything, and it's recording every 4 milliseconds, 256 times every second, continuously. It's just a continuous recording, like a heartbeat, going like that. The way that ANT+ and Bluetooth work is recording, and when I've done one pedal stroke, it then takes a timestamp, and it averages the torque for that pedal stroke. Does that make sense? Bike's going that direction, by the way. Okay, so we turn it round once. It's now averaged what the force that went for that. It is now going to send this to this crank, because when Garmin developed the system, there was no such thing as two legs. Cyclists all only had one, and so the head units could only measure one signal. Okay, that's the history. 256 times a second, average every pedal stroke, from right to left to head unit.
唔知啊 power 其實咧係time dependent 嘅，即係換句話講，你俾出嚟嘅力咧，其實同個時間咧係有成正比例，係反比例。咁所以咧佢而家基本上1秒鐘咧會讀256次，成個圈之後讀晒佢所有嘅力嘅數據之後咧，再攞翻個 average 嗰1秒嘅 average， 就係再傳送翻個數據。咁當然佢唔係話每0.04秒會去 pass 一次數據，因為呢個係個力嘅數據，力嘅 record 嚟嘅，而 power 係一個時間嘅指 間性嘅嘢嚟嘅，所以佢會呢256次啦，大約咁樣樣一個轉嘅話，佢會攞翻個 average 嘅數據咗啫。
我補充少少好嘛？係咪？俾我補充少少。InfoCrank 係1秒鐘可以攞256次嘅，但係因為個加棉嘅 design 問題，佢1秒只係攞一次。咁佢嘅做法就係將256即係一秒變咗做一個平均數，然後由right first and to the left，OK，由隻右臂射個信號去隻左臂，左臂之後先至射上 head unit。咁跟住，因為當初加棉 design 呢嚿嘢嘅時候咧，佢會講笑咁講啦，運動員得一隻腳嘅，就唔係兩隻腳，所以佢就呢個成個傳送嘅 protocol。Is it this is protocol for
That's the Ant Plus protocol.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the Bluetooth has to do the same.
Oh, clever.
Because otherwise your Garmin can't read it.
Clever.
OK。佢我再補充翻少少啦。佢頭先我講過點解一定要1秒鐘，即係先至可以傳送一次。其實呢個唔係佢哋嘅儀器嘅限制，而係反而係接收嗰個儀器
嘅限制
咗佢哋冇辦法1秒鐘收256次。係啦。
冇錯。我又再補充啦，等大家個概念清楚啲咩叫1秒鐘256次。因為你踩嘅時候，如果你個腳頻個 cadence 係60轉嘅話咧，咁你啱啱一個圈就係1秒啦，明唔明啊？咁佢咁樣嘅情況下，就係啱啱一個圈記錄256次啊。但係如果譬如話你嘅腳頻係90轉嘅話咧，咁咧就會將呢個256啦，就再要除翻啦，就唔係256，會少啲啲嘅。嗱，而點解佢要強調256轉咧？256 Hz 咁重要咧？係因為市面上有啲功率計咧，佢係甚至可能得100 Hz，甚至60 Hz 嘅。如果咁樣嘅話咧，佢90轉嘅話咧，佢可能一個得60 Hz 嘅話咧，佢60轉。咁1秒鐘佢只係記錄60次嘅啫，明唔明啊？所以呢個係好大分別嘅。所以個 Hertz， 所以有啲行家，我哋有啲行家見到256 Hertz 嘅抽樣咧，係好驚訝嘅，因為佢可以記錄好多數據，其實係OK。
Is that the whole slide or? Okay. So the next. What I'm trying to say here is it doesn't matter what protocol the power meter is, the measurement happens the same way. The head unit can only understand one message, so this has to speak to this under the protocol. And then 4 times every second, this sends a message to the head unit. Sometimes cyclists argue, well, the SRM does 4 and this only does 2, or it's all a stupid argument, doesn't matter. Because under Ant Plus you are able to send 4. That's why SRM can do it, because they use Ant Plus. Okay? So there's no difference between anyone in the protocol.
佢主要都係解釋翻傳送嗰個方式嘅速度個 limitation。首先我可能都講過，要由右臂 send 過去從左臂度。跟住先至可以再 send 到啲 information 落去，咁佢認為呢啲都係個 protocol 嘅限制。
Now there is a problem. Sorry.
咁講到250個 Hz 咁緊要嘅，咁其實都比1米 U 都難攞。咁我其實買隻60 Hz 同買隻250 Hz 其實冇分別嘅喎。
平均數唔同啦嘛。
Because of the transmission limitations, okay? If we limit, the limitation is what's the difference between 60 Hz reading and the 256 Hz?
So the 60 hertz is reading 60 times per second and averaging 60 points on the pedaling action for each pedal stroke, and 256 is averaging the 256 pedal strokes. The difference between them is around about 0.5% of accuracy straight away. If they're both entirely accurate, it's about 0.4, probably 0.4, 0.5% accuracy. A 60 a pedal stroke I'll show you soon, has a shape, and if you miss bits, it's not a straight line. So
OK， 咁最主要係個平均值嘅問題，因為你個力係 up and down 嘅。當你少啲點嘅時候，你就會拉平咗嗰條 curve。當你拉平咗個 curve 嘅時候，嗰啲計 power 其實計 area 啊嘛。咁嘅話，你就會有大約5%嘅誤差度。假設你就係完全係準確嘅話，你量少啲嘅 data 嘅話，佢個 curve 畫出嚟係冇咁 curve 嘅，其實冇咁準確。個 area 會少咗，即係換句講誤差度。
Because it's time dependent, the less you measure, the more you measure totally different numbers.
So, if this can carry a lot of measurement, you're going to develop some more proprietary or N plus 2.0 with Garmin or somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll show you in a minute.
This is the point.
Good. So now, but then the plot gets thicker. This averages pedal stroke, sends it to here. This averages a pedal stroke. 4 times every second it sends a message up. But the Garmin only takes one. So it doesn't even matter if it was sending out 6 times a second. Who cares? Your computer on the handlebars can only take one of them. And the rest go somewhere. They're not saved, they're not anywhere. In the ether, they're gone. And that's the messaging system that's on the bike. And that's the normal messaging system. That's another reason for recording at 256 times a second, because 3 of those 4 messages every second from an InfoCrank are talk messages, and they're basically the same. Three messages, bang, 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 they're the same. So if one gets lost, you at least got the right number going up. If you're recording less, you have wrong numbers going up and long delays between things.
OK， 雖然佢1秒鐘可以射4次上去，但係因為 ANT Plus 嘅晶片咧，其實佢只係可以 grab 到其中1次嘅嘢嚟嘅。不過佢話雖然係咁樣，但係始終都係會雖然佢可能未必會，但係你都係會射4次出去嘅。因為你萬一其中1次收唔到嘅話，你1/4秒之後都可以 grab 到下一次個 information， 唔會有個 lagging， 即係個伸延嘅話。如果你係啦，如果你唔射4次，你每一就翻 ANT Plus 嘅話，每1秒先射1次嘅話，你 miss 咗一個嘅話，你下一次要等1秒之後。但係你如果唔繼續射4次嘅話，咁你最少都可以 miss 咗一個嘅話，都可以 catch 得到下一次射出嚟嘅成果。
Now do remember, this may sound like I'm saying it's all bad, but the reality is on a bike we don't want to carry the computer. And if we're collecting huge amounts of data, we've actually got a problem. So the bike is designed to be light, and everything about it is light. It's part of the issue.
雖然呢個係一個唔完美嘅 transmission system， 但係實際上高運行上嚟嘅話，就算我哋有辦法係可以 catch 得到咁大量嘅 data， 我哋可能要帶部電腦去一路踩住踏單車去消化呢啲 data， 佢認為根本冇可能嘅事嘅。所以咧，基本上咧雖然唔完美，但係我哋單車運動係需要講求輕嘅。咁我認為呢個係可能係一個平衡，佢都會接受。
So InfoCrank is designed for the normal rider who wishes to improve, wants to have real numbers, all that sort of thing, with the limitations, but it's designed for that. And we have various apps to assist the firmware updaters if anyone wants to ask me, I'm a Mac user, why we don't have iOS, it's because you have to use a dongle to get the ANT Plus, but in the future we will. And we basically have the whole suite of products so that you can just buy a normal InfoCrank, do normal stuff, and put it onto Training Peaks, put it onto this, check this out, and do some extra stuff as well.
佢哋有好多唔同類型嘅 software 啦，佢會 back up 你個 InfoCrank 嘅 data reading 嘅基本上。
So firmware updaters and all of that sort of thing for the normal rider, uploading of data onto programs and so on. But the thing the thing about it, I suppose, is that it is built in that sense to be something that every rider can actually have on their bike. It's not just an elite measurement tool, but what you have is precisely the same as what the Olympic gold medalists have, and so on. And I want to now go in and talk about the fast messaging and the sort of things that are totally different to everything else now. It all started with the track crank. This is actually a photo of a prototype track crank. It doesn't have our labelling on it or anything because that's the last thing that we do. Not only is the design a little bit different, but inside is about 5 years of extra technical work, which is available in all InfoCranks. Just in case I forget to tell you, you don't have to buy a track crank to get all the smart stuff. Even if you've got a road crank, inside is exactly the same. And because it's a policy of mine, to the extent possible, even if you bought an InfoCrank 4 years ago, you can upgrade what's inside to the latest. We're not like Vector 1, Vector 2, Vector 3. When it doesn't work, we make another one. Yes, we will do things in the future maybe and so on, but the reality is if you have the oldest InfoCrank available on the market today, you can have the software that's riding around the velodrome there in the next few days. That's the truth.
呢個係佢哋一開始嘅prototype 啦，係場地單車用嘅。但係基本上而家公路單車嘅 crane 嘅 power meter 咧嘅裝置，其實基本上同最初開始研發嘅場地單車所咧係exactly一樣嘅。而最大嘅好處咧，佢認為咧呢個嘢可能係5年前嘅設計，但係佢哋有辦法咧係可以幫你 update 佢哋嗰個4年前或者5年前買嘅 product， 同而家你今時今日新買嘅 product 一模一樣。因為佢有辦法係可以 upgrade 到近嗰個Is it just upgrade the software?
Well, just to be technical about it, there's a lot inside here. There's 3 boards. One of them is the radio board, and the other major one is the motherboard. On the motherboard there is software. That software is not upgradable by you. I can actually upgrade it for you for instance, if you send your cranks back. But that software is not upgradable by you. It also populates with firmware, and the firmware is upgradable by you. But someone had a crank the other day, and he had it for 1.5 years, and he rang me up and he said, I really need to upgrade the crank. I said, why? He said, well, I've had the crank 1.5 years, and surely there's some upgrades. I said, oh, I'm not sure. So he went to upgrade it. No, he's got the latest software. See, the software works. The firmware works. We don't upgrade because there's bugs. There aren't any bugs. So for 1.5 years, it's been the same firmware. And for the 1.5 years before that, it was only one upgrade where we got rid of magnets. That was it.
雖然呢個嘢係可以 upgrade 啦，咁但係我哋自己係冇辦法去 upgrade 嘅，一定要 send 翻個病翻去俾佢 upgrade。咁但係同市面上即係唔同 iPhone 每年都會 upgrade。咁其實佢冇必要嘅情況之下佢係唔會 upgrade 嘅。好似你頭先所講，佢有一個顧客以為佢已經買咗1年半，點樣都會有啲 upgrade。咁但係其實根本佢可能好直接啦，根本冇 bug 喺入面，所以佢根本就冇需要去 upgrade 呢一個 software， 所以佢話最近一次嘅話應該大約都係1年半2年之前，去拆除一個磁石個功能，所以先至需要重新再 update 一次嘅 software。
So now we're talking the idea that you probably got from the normal power meter is it's sort of slow data. It's actually high-speed collection and slow sending. Okay, that's a good way of seeing it. It is important to understand that even in the slow sending, the data is accurate. This, just if you can get this difference, the data is accurate, but the metrics that come from it are not always useful to help you improve. So,
佢話你應該有個大概嘅概念啦。佢話最重要，雖然我哋嘅 量度測試嘅 data 咧係好準確同埋好快脆，但係限制咗一個傳送嘅限制咧。雖然佢哋未必所有嘅數據都有用，但係你哋都應該要睇得到個分別就係、即係調翻轉頭唔能夠因為傳送嘅限制而去 slow down 咗嗰個數據嗰個策略。我諗佢就係。
So it is important to understand that no one else can read the fast data. You can't read it on Zwift, you can't read it on Garmin, you can't go to Training Peaks, you can't go to any of those. They're not designed to get the heavy data. And it is heavy data, there's lots of it. And so when we built the systems for Great Britain, that was after they tried to build the connections for 2 years. And they couldn't do it. And so we built it for them. And then we thought, well, if Great Britain, with all their peoples and all their millions of dollars, can't build a system, we better build a system for everyone else as well. We've had the system ourselves inside for 4 years.
佢哋sorry, what's the beginning?
The high-speed data is sorry, I think where I started was that the high-speed data is not able to be read by most of the other software.
大家唔應該轉牛角尖去去關於好多數據讀到出嚟，但係我哋又冇辦法傳送到出嚟，因為其實基本上咧冇一個設備係應該去負荷呢一個咁大量嘅數據去收集嘅。咁最重要嘅問題就係我哋雖然收唔到全部嘅數據，但係嗰個數據嘅分析嘅 system 係當初英國單車聯會咁有錢，都冇辦法可以設計得到一個 system 去負荷得到呢一啲嘅 data 嘅話，咁所以咧佢哋就決定自己去開發呢個 system， 亦都俾普羅大眾，因為咁有錢嘅英國單車聯會都冇辦法去自己去開發呢個 system 嘅話，咁佢認為大家普羅大眾已經冇人有呢個技術，所以但係佢哋已經合作成功有呢個技術嘛，所以佢決定俾大家去用呢個 system。
This comes down to what data is useful for. If the power meter is just so that you can see that you're doing 300 watts, well, you may as well get the cheapest one you can. But if you actually want to use it to understand what's happening, you obviously have to now get something that you can get the best information possible.
我哋唔係量度一個單一嘅數據最重要，即係如果佢話你只係需要量度得到300W嘅準確數據嘅話，你求其喺街邊買一個簡單嘅嘢就可以。但係我哋而家嘅重點係唔係量度個單一數據，點樣利用呢啲數據嚟到令到你進步，所以需要用一個更加精準嘅嘢。
So the InfoCrank is a measurement tool, but it's a diagnostic tool as well to tell you what's wrong, what's right.
雖然佢係一個測量嘅儀器，但係其實同時間好似一個醫生咁樣去診症你究竟有啲咩做得啱，亦都診症你有啲咩做得唔啱，所以其實可能重點係數據分析嗰方面更加重要過只係讀取一啲數據出嚟。
So we have 2 specific products for the different types of cyclists. They're both available on the Android only, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a phone, and on our special data logger. One is for free, and one costs quite a lot of money. The difference is really in the amount of information that is available. Okay, and that comes down to obviously the data, sending the data out, how we send the data out from the cranks.
佢而家暫時有two system。
Free system.
Cost OK 關於我估計應該係嗰啲數據分析嗰啲。
係啊，佢呢個係一個數據分析嘅軟件嚟嘅，咁佢就而家 Android 嘅手機可以用到嘅。咁佢頭先講嘅有一個係要免費，第一個係要買，通常買嗰個係賣俾啲國家隊嘅。
咁當然買嗰啲多啲嘢睇啦，係嘛？
By the way, the use of Android is not because we're anti-iPhone. It's actually because we have to collect the data really fast, and we can't have dongles and other things in the road. It has to be direct, very, very fast, and it has to be on something that is very strong and powerful, which is why we actually use phones, because they're the strongest computers out there that you can carry around.
當然啦，佢話唔係話 against 呢個 Apple iPhone 嘅事實，只不過因為佢嘅傳送嘅數據係要非常之快，咁而 Android 可能喺呢個方面係優勝一啲，所以
應該係 iPhone 係冇內置 MPEG 嘅 sensor， 而有一啲 Android 嘅機係有內置 MPEG sensor 嚇。咁如果要用一條線叫做即係或者用一個 OTG maybe something like that and with the 即係用一條線再用個 dongle 個速度追唔到佢哋。係啦。
Yeah, so it's very, very, very important. And the other thing, you may not know this, Android is built on a system called Linux. And effectively we're using Linux as opposed to an Apple. So it's a computer decision. It's not a phone decision. If that makes sense.
Open standard.
Yeah, open standard, that's correct. So the two uses, we have one that is for riders, normal riders, and I've used this for years, my wife uses it, and so many other people use it, and it's an app at the Play Store. You just go and get it. If you've got InfoCrank, you can get it. Okay, and then there's the professional series for scientific use and for for anyone who wants to pay, but it's actually designed for the people who can do a lot of research and so on. But I'm going to show you both. And the key idea, this is important also, is to get the data for later analysis, not to read it as it's happening. You can read it while it's happening, but it's not especially for that.
呢啲嘅數據嘅話，主要都係俾你哋事後去分析翻你哋之前嘅訓練嘅情況嘅，而唔係一個俾你哋即時去閲讀。即係你踩緊單車即時攞咁多 data 都冇用到。咁呢啲係俾你哋事後攞嚟分析。係啦。
咁佢呢度有講到咧，其實佢有兩個 version 啦。呢個就係講，如果免費嗰個 version 咧就係一般使用嘅，但係佢要即係每個月俾錢嗰個咧就係俾啲國家隊啊、職業嗰啲人去用。咁頭先一直都冇講到咧，就係佢呢個其實就係第一次去收集呢個 high speed data 嘅。以前嗰啲頭先講加棉嗰啲標頭咧，佢哋係1秒幾錄一次。佢而家呢一個係 high speed data， 係用嚟做呢個 high speed data 第一次使用嘅嚇。咁而佢收集呢啲咁嘅 data 咧，係可以喺之後分析嗰陣時使用嚇，呢個先係重要係啊。
With the high speed data, you are actually getting to see a real picture, and from the real picture, you can actually make decisions, and you can actually see that some of the things you may have thought before are actually not right.
Is it necessary for our cyclists? You have to bring one more Android device along with us during cycling to capture their initial data?
That's a good question, and we have tried with a Swiss developer to put it into their own computer, but their computer was so chunky in the end that we just decided no, the bike computer, and we just did it ourselves. But I don't believe that the high-speed data should actually be used all the time. I think you use it to train yourself. I'll come back to that as a separate issue if I want. Why would you use it? I've used it for years, so I'll explain what I think you should use it for. I think the normal data is perfect for endurance riding most of the time. That's why we built it like that. But I'll come back to the question.
而家主要問翻嗰啲，佢話雖然可以量得到好多 high speed data， 即快嘅數據，但係正常嘅 training 嚟講嘅話，要用到呢啲咁快速嘅數據嘅話，其實唔算多嘅，所以佢話遲啲會解釋翻究竟普通嗰個 system 嘅話亦可以點樣幫到。
So now with high-speed data, we're going to be able to see what is happening when you pedal the bike. And the very first thing to understand when you turn this thing round is that you're not going in circles. And it looks like you're going in circles. But the reason you're not going in circles is because it's about a lever. And the lever is actually has blind spots, dark spots, soft spots, whatever they want to be. It has very high pressure spots. It actually forms a wave. If it's done properly, this is actually done by an Olympic athlete, this wave here, you can see it's got shoulders and it's got a head on top like that. Most of us will actually go down, and we just keep going down before we go up onto the next one because of the way we pedal. But if you like, that's close to a perfect pedal spot, and it is not round. Which is that first, remember that question we got before, what if you're recording only say 64 times or something a second? Well, you're only getting bits of the most important part of the pedal stroke, and therefore your numbers are immediately inaccurate. Even if they were totally 100% accurate in every measurement, the result is inaccurate. Okay? And if you're only measuring 32 and there's some power meters measuring 6, what do you say?
How to position the 6 sample?
The which one?
If I only can have a 6 samples, so how can I put the
No,
dots
you
on
don't
the,
put the dots there. See, the 6 per second, but the recording is per crank turn. So every single crank turn is going to have a different number.
Oh,
That's why the coach tells you to put it on 3 seconds, because every crank turn is effectively random. They're random numbers.
okay.
That's actually complex to get. The measurement is per second. The output is per crank turn. They're a different metric straight away. Does that make sense? You actually have to think a bit about it. Because if you were measuring 6 times, the 6 dots are going to be in different places every single pedal stroke.
So
Your numbers are going to be as random as your pedal stroke.
Please.
Funny.
Of course.
So the point about it is that's what a pedal stroke actually looks like. And so in measuring it, we can do lots of things. We can see if your left leg is different to your right. So most people say, well, my left is stronger than my right, or my right is stronger than my left. What the heck does that mean? Which part is stronger? For how long is it stronger? In other words, which muscle group is stronger at a different time? I don't know. Well, this tells you eventually, if you have enough data.
OK， 重點都係啦，你哋有咗呢啲數據之後，點樣可以去分析呢啲數據去幫助得到你？因為譬如咁講，你淨係覺得個左腳係強過個右腳嘅話，如果你冇一個咁 detail 嘅 graph 嘅話，其實你睇唔清楚究竟強咗幾多，同埋強幾耐，同埋邊一 part 係強啲，邊一 part 係冇咁強，從而可能甚至乎可以進一步分析得到你嘅大腿入面邊一嚿肌肉係強啲，邊一嚿肌肉係冇咁強。可能你回答嗰下勁啲，即係代表可能你後面個 hamstring 嘅勁啲都未定嘅。咁佢可以而家如果你有呢個 information 嘅話咧，佢可以知道嗰個你究竟甚至乎可以分析得到你嘅邊一嚿肌肉係強啲。
You might think as a cyclist, well, I don't need that information. But you ride your bike, you just ride your bike. Then you have a crash, because we all have crashes. I think maybe I've had yours, but I have lots of crashes from time to time. And then you have to recover. It's actually very useful to know what your pedal stroke used to be when you're trying to make it better again. And and that's why we're used in the medical field for people with knee operations and things like this, to rehabilitate them. The pedal stroke is not, even if you think you are pedaling smoothly, some of this is negative torque, and some of it's 50 Newton meters. You know, if you, a normal, when you go for your endurance ride and you're just riding in a group but not hard, the average torque will be something like 20 Newton meters. But Every pedal stroke has 50 and minus 20. It's a huge range, and it's all coming from your muscles.
佢舉個例子就話，可能當大家覺得平時踩單車冇乜機會用得到呢啲咁多嘅 information，其中一個最有用嘅地方就係、譬如你發生咗意外，當你發生咗意外，你要康復嘅時候，你有以前嘅平時嘅記錄嘅時候，你就可以睇得到自己嘅康復嘅情況嘅進度係點樣，幾耐先可以去翻自己可能平時嘅速度，甚至乎頂峰嘅速度，呢啲 information 都可以幫得到你睇到你康復嘅進展嘅都可以。
And every single pedal stroke is different to another one, like snowflakes. Everyone's different, and your right is different to your left. Every one of them. They're just different. You can see them when you see the pictures. That's different. They're all different.
每一個踩踏嘅情況都唔一樣。首先我唔記得補充翻漏咗一點，就係佢講翻關於康復嘅情況。當然啦，好多時都會睇嗰個 average 嘅數據，但係 average 嘅數據係拉咗頂同底嘅 average， 你冇辦法睇得到其實嗰個情況係點樣。所以如果你有呢啲 information 嘅話，個康復嗰個進展咧係要準確啲。
So when I last year this time I had a torn calf muscle from skiing, not from biking, and this is my first day back on the bike. This is the free app. So the first thing I need to do is I need to change my pedal balance from 62-38 back to 50-50 more or less. And this is what it looks like. Look how negative that is. That's down negative 20 up to positive 50, but the injured leg is only positive 30. 80% as much power on the up as the left leg, and that's at only 168 watts.
呢個就係佢受傷之後嘅數據，好明顯地。
This is live, by the way. I'm watching this as I write.
受傷咗嗰隻腳嘅話，就冇辦法可以同冇受傷嗰隻腳。
It's the combination of both.
哦，OK，呢個係平均值，即嗰條線平均值。
That's why you feel smooth on the bike, because there's no negative torque with both legs together, but each leg is actually doing a lot of nothing between pedal strokes.
雖然個單車好 smooth 咁去啊，但係其實好明顯地一隻腳大力啲，一隻腳細力啲。咁雖然個 pedal 都係好 smooth，但係你有呢啲數據就會知道自己左右腳嘅差別。
So that you can now, even on the free app, there's enough data coming out, fast data coming out of the crank, that you can actually see precisely what's happening as you pedal. So that's the free app is designed for those who want visual feedback. It's not designed for having lots of data. It's designed for visual feedback. It works with the normal power meter mode. So you could have your Garmin on the front of the bike, and you could actually have this, though I recommend this for the indoor training. And I train nearly every time I train indoors with the tablet sitting there, Zwift sitting up here or something like this, and I only look at this when I'm doing intervals and I'm training my pedaling technique. That's the only time I use it for that.
Free 嗰個 Apps 嘅話，主要嘅話係俾你我哋用一個即時嘅睇得到嘅視覺嘅 feedback 嚟嘅。好，或者講多句咧，就係另外嗰個 program 即係會唔會係主要係做分析、事後分析嗰個。
So this word biofeedback is another word that we will define. Have you all heard of biofeedback? No? Okay. Biofeedback means that you are able to see something, that's not the only meaning, but see something and feel it and voluntarily change your actions to change the outcome. Okay? So you're watching your pedal stroke, you can see that it was bad, and you can try things and see the immediate effect. Then you can practice it, and then you get better.
即係一個即時嘅 你如果譬如睇得到個數據話俾你聽，有啲嘢有問題，咁你可以自己即時調下，試下唔同啲嘅比例嘅情況啊，或者點樣可以點樣 improve 得到個數據。呢個係一個即時嘅。
呢種喺我哋訓練嚟講咧，我哋叫做生理嘅回饋，就係當佢有視覺嘅 feedback 嘅時候咧，你哋睇到嗰啲個 pendulum 嗰個數據嘅變化，你就即時調校個身體去嘗試去 merge 嘅話咧，產生一個生理嘅回饋嘅話咧，你就可能可以越踩越好啦。嗰個踩踏嗰度。
即係我估計有啲嘢未必感覺得到嘅。
係啦。
你以為自己踩得好快，咁但係個數據可能係。
其實呢樣嘢咧，亦都係出現喺我哋譬如踩山啊，或者係點樣啦。如果你個功率計咧係好準確而又好即時嘅話咧，你嗰個 bio feedback 咧就係好準確嘅。咁我有啲學生咧，佢哋轉咗 InfoCrank 之後咧，佢哋都話當踩山嘅時候咧，佢哋加強咗嗰個生理嗰個回饋嗰個反應嚇，就比較容易知道自己係踩緊啲乜嘢，握數係踩緊咩狀態。
Let me tell you some funny things about legs. My wife had a knee operation, half a new knee, which meant that her leg didn't work. So she rode a bike, she had an operation, and she couldn't move her leg. So when she couldn't move her leg on day 2, the doctor tried to get her to move the leg, and she couldn't bend the leg or move it. What do you think the doctor did? Give me any doctors here? No doctors? Okay. What do you think the doctor did? Explain, ask them. So she couldn't move this leg.
隻腳唔能夠喐動接埋，咁佢有個膝頭哥嘅手術做完之後唔接埋，咁你估下個醫生究竟同佢點樣處理
The answer, the first answer you think is they said, well, try to bend it, push, do this, or they might have put it onto a machine that did some bending for her. It's not the answer. They bent the other leg. She's lying in the bed. This one's not working, so they made this one work. This one worked, and it told this one, you can now work. And so it learnt to work from that one. Okay? That's a funny story, I think. But let's now move to the bike. My same wife, same wife, same different bike. She's now at home, and her pedal is now strong on the left. Pedaling is strong on the left and weak on the right. She didn't tell me anything about the numbers or anything, and she took one of my computers and she started training on her bike, but she didn't tell me. But she took the app, the early app, and she did what everyone would try to do. Because the right's not working, she tried to push it harder. But what she found is that instead of it going from 67, 30 or whatever it was, the power just went up. But the difference between them was the same. But you could see it. It took 5 minutes to work out what was happening. So then she's looking at it and saying, why is this one not working? She's not talking, she didn't ask me, she didn't ask a physiotherapist, she didn't ask anyone, she's just looking at it. And she worked out, well, if I can pull this leg through, I don't have as much negative now, instead of leaving the weight on it. And within 3 weeks, she had 30 watts back, and she was at 50-50 from 70-30. Within 3 weeks. Then she told me that. Told me what she's done, then she wrote a story on it. That's biofeedback. Okay, the feedback is, that's why we use Android. It's instantaneous. If you go on Zwift, for instance, Zwift has a 3-second delay. You can't use it. The body doesn't want to respond to it. It's a different feeling. Zwift is a game. It's good fun, but it's not biofeedback.
佢舉咗一個好有趣嘅例子，關於 biofeedback 㗎啦。咁就係佢太太受咗傷之後嘅 training，佢自己上咗去踩呢個單車之後，發現左腳同右腳嘅力係唔一樣。咁佢發現唔一樣嘅時候，咁佢當然佢希望諗住話應該要踩大啲隻右腳去追翻嗰 嗰個嘢。但係佢發覺咧，原來踩大呢個右腳咧，雖然令到個 power 提升咗，但係個距離依然喺嗰度。即係換句話講，佢做緊嘅嘢係正確嘅。OK， 跟住佢開始試下啲唔同嘅嘢，例如可能 drag 頭少少啦，或者點樣樣。跟住佢慢慢 get 到嗰個感覺，睇得到個數據話俾你聽，我原來佢做呢個動作係有改善嘅。咁佢慢慢就向呢個方向咁樣去追。大約3個禮拜之後咧，佢就成功地將兩隻腳嘅 power 係追翻平衡翻轉頭。咁所以呢啲嘅爆 feedback 就係你未必感覺得好清楚，但係你可以試好多唔同嘅嘢嘅時候，個數據會話俾你聽個事實嘅情況係點樣，從而向嗰個方向去改善你哋嗰個態度。
So that's the pedaling. We call that the waveform that you saw there. But you can also get the fast torque data, straight torque data. So the torque. So waveform is when you're actually turning the cranks. The torque is just when you're putting force on. Well, that means that you can turn on the fast torque data in the free app. We're able, as soon as you put any pressure on the crank, you'll see it, red and green lines as you do this on there. But you can do isometric testing. Sprinters do this a lot. They don't necessarily just go to the gym and pick up weights on their legs. You're on, the bike is locked, and then the coach says go, and they push as hard as they can on the crank, and it can't move, but the torque goes straight up. And then the job is to hold it as long as you can, and then it goes off, rest until you're recovered, and do it again. And you can read every single one of them, okay? You can do that on the free app, you just can't record it, okay, because there's too much data. But on the free app, you can do and see and visualize most of the things that you can do on the more expensive type of thing. So the fast data comes out and produces that, as well as some other training things that we have on there. So that's called isometric strength training. And people at the top level, Olympic level, that's how they get those very big legs.
呢個比較特別啲嘅，呢個 free app 入面仲有個嘢叫做呢個 function 啦，佢係唔係量度你嘅 power 嘅，係淨係量度你嘅力嘅啫。所以就算你唔係踩緊嘅時候咧，都唔會有嗰啲 graph 走出嚟嘅。但係咧，佢會有個好似個磅重咁樣樣，即時可以睇得到你究竟有幾大力係俾緊落去。就算你唔轉嘅時候咧，都會睇得到你俾緊幾大力落去踩落去個 crank 嗰度。咁呢個係一個類似 strength training 嘅。係啊，
呢個其實係一個我哋叫做等量嘅力量訓練啊。呢種等量嘅力量訓練咧，其實簡單啲講句，例如你重腳低轉踩山，就係類似一種等量嘅力量訓練。咁佢而家呢個 Apps 咧，佢可以做呢個 isometric 嘅 strength training 咧，非常之好咧。佢係因為可以透過呢一啲大量嘅數據咧，可以即時可以睇得到，咁你就可以控制到咧，可以做一個好等量嘅力量訓練咯。呢個係非常之好嘅一個。因為嗰個好容易知道嗰個力量嘅轉變嘛。
So then there's the Vince. By the way, Vince means the Verve InfoCrank Nerve Center. And so in this one there's a lot more happening. You can't see it all on the screen. I'll show in a minute. But we are using the sensors in the data logger, so we know the barometric pressure the whole time, so we can measure any 100 mils of difference in altitude. So if the person's going up the track, you can see that they've gone up the track. We're measuring what's called the 3D vectors in space, so we can see if the bike's leaning over, when it's going around the corners. It's got GPS on it, of course, as well, which isn't much good in a velodrome. It's got various other sensors, but it also, this one also has the ability to control the InfoCrank and to turn off lots of other things that are inside it, so that the information comes out not faster, but more pure. But also every InfoCrank can be individually made, in a sense, to fit the specification of the rider or the team, even down to the radio transmission frequency. Because if there's 20 riders on the track all riding in the same frequency and everyone's got their mobile phones, your mobile phones are on the same frequency as these. So when there's 7,000 people at the velodrome watching the World Championship, half of these things don't work. But we can search the frequency bands, see where the bands are, and then put the InfoCranks into the frequency where there's bigger holes and things like this. So that all of a sudden this thing, the same thing that you've got on your bike, is now a totally programmable instrument that puts out 50 times as much data as anything else out there. And this is what's happening. What's happening at the moment is they're sitting on a watt bike next door that's been populated with InfoCranks, and this is just showing the data live as it's coming out. Of course, the rider can't see it, but the main aim of showing it is so that you know it's actually working. As they push them up to the start line or something like that, they can see it. And as soon as they press the stop button, it stops, and then it saves it. Now I can tell you the secret. The secret, and this is why we provide the data logger and everything together, even though it's expensive, is because we're not operating on any protocol whatsoever that belongs to someone else. We're operating on pure binary code. And so after a minute and a half of that, that's about 500, that before the other sensors are put in there, that's 500 kilobytes of binary code, which is actually really easy to transfer onto this or even onto a computer by wireless while you're at the velodrome. 500 kilobytes is not a big deal. But immediately it goes into the decoder so you can see it. It's now 50 megabytes. Okay. So all of a sudden it's an impossible thing. In fact, it's too big for an Excel spreadsheet by the time you're at that point. And that's why the high-speed data is such a costly thing and been so difficult to do. But it's all sitting inside the InfoCrank and it's all available and so on. So I'm not saying you go and buy a decoder like that. That's why we developed the free one, where we've used algorithms and other things to do the same as that, but from a data perspective, there's errors. But from the picture sense, it's correct. Does that make sense? For you? You've got it.
It's a little bit long.
Yeah, sorry, I got carried away.
It's okay.
Tell me where if you need.
So basically, you're trying to explain how the data is transmitting in binary form.
Yes, we use pure binary. We're not doing text.
好 technical 嘅嘢，佢而家講緊，其實佢主要話俾你聽點解一啲system 係要好貴都 develop 唔到出嚟，就係主要係因為當然可能有啲人比較自私啲，佢哋個 coding 當然係唔係去到最原始嗰啲去出去，而佢哋咧係一開始嘅概念就係已經係俾你全部最快速、最簡單嘅方法去做，所以佢唔介意啲人係可以睇到最原始嘅碼，所以佢只有用最原始嘅碼先可以最快速咁 send 啲嘢出去。所以咧當你想protect你嘅知識產權嘅情況之下，又想快速嘅傳訊嘅話，就係做唔到呢個動作嘅。基本上所以佢嘅形容就係我 get 到嚇，我 get 到係咁嘅意思。
So this is only possible when every data point is accurate.
所以佢最緊要就係一個無私諗住唔好有任何嘅嘢收埋先，所以佢 break 到佢最原始嘅方法嘅時候，嗰啲嘢送出去嘅時候，個 data 就會快出。而呢個係唯一一個方法可以做得到快速傳送嘅。當你嘗試做 coding 嘅嘢或者收埋一啲嘢嘅時候咧，佢就冇辦法可以好快速傳送，所以佢將所有嘢 break down 到喺個裏面嗰度係咁寫出嚟。
So it just looks like a crank. Actually, it's a really good crank, but it's actually a very big recording system as well. And the idea is to get the best data that we possibly can on what it is that you're doing on the bike, so that you or your coach or whoever happens to be at the time can use that to help you either get better or win gold medals or actually even just enjoy riding and get stronger and be able to ride in different terrain, however it is, whatever it is, what things we do on the bike.
基本上呢個除咗個大名之外，亦都係一個好大嘅接收測量儀器。
So for the normal rider, the price of the InfoCrank is set in American dollars actually, but it's set to was set to what we call or what other people call the mid-market. So it's never designed to compete with the cheap things. But on the other hand, it's not designed to be as expensive as an SRM. Actually, it might be designed to be as expensive, but it's priced not to be as expensive. For people like Great Britain, this is actually a Great Britain track crank here, the design. It's different to the normal, but you know they pay a lot more money for that crank than normal people. Over $1,000 more per crank. Okay, so the reality is we are able to build at least so that the normal person is able to ride with the same accuracy.
InfoCrank 個設計嘅方針都係大眾化，佢唔會諗住設計一個最平嘅power meter 出嚟，同啲平價嘅嘢去求啲。咁當然啦，佢亦都冇 set 到，佢雖然佢設計上係追得到 SRM， 但係佢亦都唔係諗住做一個係好貴價嘅產品出嚟，令到佢冇辦法普及嘅。咁所以佢哋個定位係一個 mid market 嘅市場。咁佢有提過呢一個英國國家隊嘅 track pedal 有啲特別嘅，所以佢哋個crane 咧係大約1000蚊，貴1000蚊左右嘅。而呢個應該係特別設計俾英國場地隊嘅品牌。
So that's the presentation that I wanted to bring you, but you've been asking some questions through, but maybe you've got other questions. They don't just have to be about InfoCrank. If you want to talk about anything else, I'm happy to talk about anything else, except probably politics. And we could leave religion out too as well, I suppose, but pretty well anything else. And as I said, I'm here for you, so if you want to ask me anything, feel free.
今日嘅 presentation 就差唔多㗎啦，佢認為應該差唔多 cover 咗你哋頭先嘅問題，但係咧，如果你有新嘅問題嘅話咧，隨便發問。關於 InfoCrank 又好，關於 InfoCrank 嘅嘢都可以隨便問嘅，除咗啲其他啲問題，例如政治問題、宗教問題，唔會答你到。但係其他嗰啲可能關於power training 啊，或者類似有關嘅問題，你哋都可以問到。
Just if I might say one other thing, Joseph here is working with us only since a short time. One of the reasons why he was attracted to InfoCrank and why we were attracted to working with him and helping to build up his business as well is because once upon a time he was in the medical device industry where accuracy and repeatability and numbers and all these things really matter. The InfoCrank in Australia has been, by the medical committees, has been said it's a clinical tool, so it can be used to determine, changes in people's legs and things like this. So it's accurate to that type of level. This guy actually comes from a background of working with medical devices, which is, this is not just a pure medical device, but in fact that's where it's going. That's one of the reasons we've joined together, because he's not just selling InfoCrank to people just because it's a bike piece. It's because it's actually what it is, and that's why we've felt comfortable working together.
其實都要自己解釋翻啦。OK， 咁佢話點解會同榮豐一齊合作嘅話，最主要嘅原因就係因為租成佢有醫療器材設備嘅 background， 以前可能做生意有嗰啲 background 啦。咁佢大家都知道醫療器材係個 accuracy 同埋個參與嘅準確度都係好重要嘅嘢嚟嘅。咁佢認為佢話我睇睇 InfoCrank 喺澳洲嚟講咧，直頭可以當係一個醫療設備去做一個附件嘅設備嚟嘅。咁所以佢認為呢一點係同佢哋嘅concept 係好接近嘅。所以咧佢會中意同租成合作係咁嘅原因。而 instead of 同一啲人可能係淨係當一個係一個單車產設備咁樣去買，只係買呢個產品嘅宗旨，可能大家嘅方向有啲唔一樣。所以佢只係解釋翻點解會同榮豐公司有咁嘅合作嘅意向。
Thank you.
That wasn't scripted. Some questions?
我有一啲學生咧係佢個功率計咧喺一個穩定嘅狀態底下咧，佢係淨係左邊，佢就無論點樣校正咧，佢都係會高10幾瓦嘅。咁其實係咪喺呢種情況下，其中一個原因係因為佢左邊比右邊大力好多，所以佢用左邊嘅淨係左邊嘅功率計量度出嚟，佢會高咗10幾瓦。
你意思係話即係準確係咩？
即係話我哋可能對比一啲 smart trainer 嘅時候咧，佢用淨係左邊嘅話咧，佢比 smart trainer 讀出嚟嘅數據咧係高10幾瓦嘅。平均無論點樣校正，個點樣穩定，都係高10幾瓦。
He said he has some students the power meter is they can only record the reading from the left side, okay, and then they try to calibrate with the training trainers. But no matter how he try to calibrate, there's always like a 10 to 15 watts difference with the trainers. 呢個問題咩？
係咪因為佢左右唔平衡導致咧
？Is it because the left-right balance is not because the right leg is weaker, so that's why the reading is always 10 watts higher. What's the cause of the cause that usually as such?
Well, firstly, the right-left balance is critical on the legs. So if anyone is riding with just one power meter on one crank or one pedal, amputation, I suppose. I don't have any answer to give you because your numbers, there's nothing to say. Because it's not even the average balance that matters, it's the balance on every pedal stroke. Every one of them is different, okay? So you have to be measuring both legs independently to get a real balance number. But then you have to measure depending on the power of each leg. In other words, if you are doing an average of 200 watts for 30 minutes, the average balance might be okay. But if you are doing normal riding, where sometimes there's a bit of 300, 150, 100 and all this, your pedal balance is changing all the time. You have a totally different pedal balance when you're relaxed on your bike to when you're sprinting. And so average is just a waste of time. You may as well not know it, okay? It's better not to know it, probably. So it really, really does matter. But it's so unpredictable that you can't tell whether that's the problem. That's you can't diagnose. That's the problem.
基本上解答唔到呢個問題。我懂明。因為你都冇辦法估得到，因為你個 average 升得太過誇張，咁根本上太多冇辦法估得到點解。咁但係佢頭先解答咗你嗰個第一個問題嘅，嗰個 consistently 我用緊個錯嘅我
Yeah, well, I am consistently 55-45. But when I have actually tested on a 3-hour ride, the 55-45 doesn't work with any calculation of any part of the ride. In other words, if I do a hill climb, and I've got examples, I've written stories on this. So, but I've got a hill climb of 11 minutes, 55-45. The number is wrong by 17%, not 10%. Why? Because I've got totally different power balances at different parts, at different levels of the power. Riding up the gravel part, I'm having to put in more power than when I'm riding the flat part. And so the numbers are entirely different, even from this leg being stronger when I'm off the seat.
佢嘅意思就係，如果你只係讀一啲數據嘅話咧，而你隻左右腳又唔 balance 嘅咧，佢基本上冇辦法去準確地估計得到呢個情況。
So until I work out some of the problems with my back and other things, I'm going to be 55-45 until I'm fit again. Then I'll get closer to 47, okay? 47, whatever that is, 53, 47. And then when I'm riding at threshold, I'll be sitting at 50-50. Okay? But when I'm off my seat and taking off for a sprint, I'll be at 60 on this. Oh, what's an average? Just.
Sorry, I have a question. At the beginning, he asked about whether we use a consistently wrong reading from the training is still.
The consistently wrong readings of the power.
Throughout the training.
Yeah. Well, if I didn't answer that well enough during the talk, there was a question about can you actually get consistency from the mathematical model type power meters. My real answer, my absolute real answer is no. However, because I don't like fighting all the time, and I like a good life, and I like to smile, and I like to be happy, I say as little as I possibly can. But I have never seen any data that shows that any of the other power meters are consistent. They're not true. They're definitely not true, but they're not consistent either. Now, the exception to any of that is probably the indoor trainers. The reason for that is they're wrong, they're not true, okay? But they are usually more consistent than any bicycle power meter, okay? So when you're indoors, and the ones you've got at your studio, you know, I believe are quite good trainers, they are wrong all the time, but they're within a range, and they're quite, I think the top ones are quite consistent. The ones, the smart trainers for $1,000 and all that are quite consistent, but to a point. Then all the bets are off. They're all over the place. Is that?
Yeah,
Sorry, I said too much.
I think it's also clear. So 就算用一個錯嘅，即係唔準確嘅 power meter 去做一個訓練，佢話唔係完全冇用。OK，depends on 你個數據估計嘅數據其實有幾準確，呢個其一。其二當然啦，你個訓練嘅情況，因為每次都唔一樣嘅。假設你每一次嘅訓練嘅情況都係一模一樣，例如喺室外訓練嘅時候，咁樣嘅錯誤嘅數據嚟講咧，大約雖然有誤差，都可以俾到你一個方向去點樣訓練。咁但係當然佢唔 prefer 啦。但係如果你係去 open training 嘅話，佢基本上冇可能嘅事啦，因為你哋嘅每一次嘅訓練嘅情況又唔一樣，出嚟嘅數據亦都有好大嘅誤差嘅時候咧，基本上冇辦法去準確去訓練嗰個情況咯。
We are doing a job for another company at the moment where we are actually measuring all of the indoor trainers. Because it's a measurement device, that's what we do. That's how it started. That's what we still do. So we're doing this job for another company which may become public in due course. And so part of the job is to actually measure the accuracy. But it's not, the job has more to it than just the accuracy, but that means that we know what goes on in the things that we're measuring. That's why I can state absolutely that they are not accurate. The variation is lots and lots of watts every pedal stroke, if you like, on your bike. But because they're mathematical models, because they're indoors, they're smart trainers indoors, there's no atmospheric change, there's no road, it's as simple as you can ever do the mathematics. The reality is that most of them, well, I can't say most of them, we haven't finished the work, but the ones we've seen so far are okay on average up to a few hundred watts. And they are consistently wrong, so that none of the numbers are worth anything. But if you, for instance, were riding on Zwift or something like that and you wanted to be at 2.5 watts per kilo or something like that, it's going to be sort of okay. I'm still amused, I must say, on Zwift when I'm sitting behind someone and I'm doing 2.5 watts per kilo and I see theirs go up to 4.5, 1.5, and they're just, that is obviously a very bad power meter or whatever that they're using. You can just see it changing like this all the time.
佢話而家新嘅 project 其中一樣嘢做緊嘅嘢就係幫一啲trainer 去測試翻究竟佢哋 trainer 入面嗰個 power meter 有幾準確。呢個係佢最近做緊嘅咗。咁當然啦，佢冇辦法透露邊間公司啦，亦都未做完呢單嘢。咁佢話咧但係佢話如果睇一個 average 嘅情況之下嘅話咧，都還可以接受嘅。佢收到咗，但係佢話見到啲有啲針 up and down 嗰啲嘢嘅話，其實你基本上就唔好理嗰啲嘢啦，基本上冇用。
We're still building the test protocol at the moment, but we tested one very top line trainer to try and work the test protocol out. So I can actually give you numbers. So for instance, and I don't want to name the trainer or anything because but the person who rode the test was not us, it was someone else. On average for the 45 minutes, I think, of the test, the trainer had what's called an R squared, which is a statistical measurement of 84. So effectively said that most of the returns were within 84% of the returns were within close enough to the InfoCrank. To be considered accurate, you'd probably need to be 97. But then again, we have tested, for instance, a Stages power meter and it's coming to 13. So 84 is not a bad number. But when we take the results down and just look from 0 to 500 watts, the number goes to 94, which is even better. The number, of course, above 500 watts was just fairyland. You couldn't trust. If you were sprinting on this thing, just away, once again, the numbers don't matter.
佢俾咗少少數據你哋做 reference 啦，咁佢話而家測試緊嗰個 trainer 咧，大約有84% 到嘅 data 咧係佢哋InfoCrank 嘅 data 係可以重疊嘅，即係用嗰個叫準確嘅。但係佢認為一個準確嘅功率計應該大約要去到97%到但係佢話84其實都唔算太差㗎，因為咧基本上咧stage 咧得13嘅啫喎。咁咧仲有個嘢就係咁佢亦都講話500瓦以上嗰啲 data 咧就越嚟越唔準確㗎。佢話咧，所以如果你 sprinting 緊嘅話咧，就睇 power meter 嗰啲數據咧就唔準確嘅。佢話要500瓦以下嗰啲 data 先至有84%準確嘅啫。所以基本上如果你喺 trainer 度踩緊 sprinting 嘅話咧，嗰啲 data 攞嚟都係冇用嘅。
我想問一個少少嘅問題，最後因為我想問一個好少嘅問題啫，因為我咧就有踩單車，同時之後踩完單車之後咧，可能我會跑步嘅。咁我想話講，即係嗰個發展咧，第時會唔會係可以即係幫埋跑步可以等我哋計算得到跑步即係嗰個分係啦，跑步嘅功率㗎即係最好就係即係單車嘅功率計。同時又可以即係可能加啲軟件咁又可以做埋跑步。Compatible to running.
Okay.
Yes,
okay. So he asked for the future whether it's possible that InfoCrank can move any forwards to the running field and they can also doing something about the data recording for the running also.
Yeah. Good question. We have some friends who are champions in the sport, and we talk with them as we do in cross country skiing and other sports. And the biggest problem that we see is that no one is able to define exactly what you need. The bike is easy. We're just turning this thing round. It's always in the same direction. In that sense, it's easy. Running, people with incredibly different running styles still can be very efficient. And no one is actually able to tell us what to measure. And as a company, we don't do things that don't work. We're engineering inventors, if you like, where you have to clearly say, this is what we want to do. This is and then we work out how to do it.
Did you ever study I think there's a product for running.
There's lots of products coming out.
About the running for the power meter.
Yeah, pods and this and that. And there are lots of things, but still no one can actually tell us what they need.
You think it doesn't make sense?
No, it may make sense, and it might make sense in 5 years, but we don't know the answer to design what you need to do. Sometimes these things have to go through iterations, like the power meters have. They're all measuring all different stuff, and finally someone says, "Why don't we just measure this?" But this didn't happen because cyclists thought of it. It happened in the motor industry, because they think about things like this differently to cyclists. So it came out of Formula One. It came out of a want for data.
頭先嗰位朋友問有冇諗住向跑步嗰方面有啲產品可以設計得到，我哋都可以量度到一啲跑步嘅 efficiency 嗰啲嘢啦。咁佢話佢都有諗過嘅，但係最大嘅問題咧就係跑步咧冇一個好唔似單車咁好清晰咁有一樣嘢係可以量度得到嘅。我估計因為佢特別講過係個跑姿嘅問題，因為單車可能有一個好單方向嘅向前嘅驅動力，而跑步可能仲有向上啊、向前啊等等之類嘅嘢，令到佢冇辦法可以，佢根本唔知要 measure 啲乜嘢嘢。而家仲未一個好清晰嘅 definition 要 measure 啲乜嘢嘢，所以佢話暫時雖然佢有研究過，但係咧暫時係冇呢個嘢情況之下咧，佢哋公司咧係唔會向呢個方向發展。咁而佢都我問佢話而家其實市面上都已經有 power meter 跑步 power meter 出現，咁佢有冇研究過？咁佢話都唔可以話完全唔 make sense 嘅，佢話，但係佢話譬如好似呢一個InfoCrank 最初開始嘅時候咧，其實都唔係 for 單車用嘅，係基本上係 Formula One 嗰陣時候有需要知道一啲嗰啲 top 嘅數據出嚟而開始有呢個嘢。咁當個市場係有一個更加清晰嘅 definition 話跑步要量到啲乜嘢嘢嘅時候咧，佢認為就會可能會向嗰個方面去攞。
We did one for sailing, for America's Cup sailing, for the grinders and the shoppers. I had a friend up to my house. I actually went to a restaurant for dinner, and he spent the whole night trying to get us to do it for rowing. And I think in rowing we would do something like that a long time before running, because the rowing is sitting and pulling. But still, I said, what do you want to know? And they even though they do it, they can't answer the question.
佢有個朋友玩呢個蛙艇嘅，當然蛙艇就比跑步容易啲 measure， 最少你有啲獎係可以量度到啲乜嘢，但係其實唔係為咗 measure 而 measure 嘅。佢問翻個朋友，你其實最終你係想要啲咩數據出嚟，去到幫助得到你呢樣嘢？咁而嗰個朋友其實都冇答唔到一個清晰嘅數據，因為唔係淨係蛙大力啲就會去得快啲㗎，係咪先？所以佢嘅意思就話你一定要清晰知道嗰啲數據係點樣可以用得到嘅話，先至會有量度嘅意義。
So I think I can personally work it out for rowing, what it is they should want. But on the other hand, if I spent the millions of dollars that were spent on this, and then they told me they didn't want it, that's not much good. so from that perspective, we need to think about. But that's the way to look at all of these problems, I think. Is what are you trying to achieve? What do you want out? And that's why the InfoCrank eventually came to this point where there's this high-speed data. But yes, we have to make it commercial so that normal people can have it as well. Because if every country in the world had it for their Olympic riders, it still wouldn't make enough money to actually keep the doors open.
好簡單，點解 power meter 要 calibration？ 咁點解 calibration 嘅時候一定要隻比上下？第三個問題就係點解 InfoCrank 話自己唔使 calibration？
我真係超咁多問題。第一個問題先，
點解 power meter 要 calibration？
Why power meter is calibration and why InfoCrank doesn't need to do calibrations?
Very good question. the problem with the question is the words, which may sound silly. So Joseph used the word calibration. Calibration isn't the word that's used when you go onto your Garmin and it says, do you want to calibrate now? That is not actually a calibration. The calibration for this crank is done in the factory. And the only person who can change the calibration is one of our people if we go and remeasure the crank and test the crank and give it new numbers. The crank is calibrated for life, and the calibration never changes. We check the calibration of every crank when they come, if they come in for service or anything, and we do not normally, sometimes we've had to, but we normally never have to change a calibration from the first day that the crank was made, even years later. Nothing changes in the crank. The calibration is fixed.
我估計啊，你唔想先要 calibrate 嘅啫，係咪先？或者你有啲嘢係變化得到先會需要重新再 set 個 set。而佢哋講嘅話，佢哋InfoCrank都有時候咧喺任何嘅 condition 嘅情況之下咧都會不變，所以佢出廠嘅時候已經做咗一次 calibration。而呢個應該係個 lifetime 嘅 calibration 嚟嘅，所以唔需要再管。因為佢有信心佢哋嘅產品係唔會再係喺途中有轉變，所以唔需要。
即係簡單啲講，好似一支水銀溫度計咁樣，即係探熱針咁樣，你都唔需要校正啊。佢出廠嗰陣時已經校正咗啦。
但係始終咧，即係始終都會有金屬疲勞出現咁樣啦。咁啊，有冇一個即係 official 嗰個講法就話，即係個比有冇話幾耐就要 send 翻去個廠嗰度去做 calibration？
The metal.
Yeah, the metal.
Fatigue.
Aging. Okay, good.
Fatigue.
How
Metal
often you
fatigue.
need to fatigue to make sure that the crane is not
Fatigued.
Yeah.
Broken. Well, when they fatigue, they break. So that you're asking a very, very good question. So it goes into the testing of the cranks. When you test a crank, you test it with 100,000. The crank is set like this. It's fixed. It's like the isometric testing, and it is basically hit with 100,000 hits of 180 Newton meters. And if it doesn't break, the crank is considered to have passed the test. So the question now is, well, what does the test try to do? What it tries to do is to work on the fatigue of the metal. So that's why we use metal for one thing, you can measure it. But the fatigue, the metal has a fatigue number. And so you know how much fatigue it's supposed to take, and you want to test that the design allows it to take that. And so you pound it like that. But that fatigue number is based on a normal rider riding this for about 10 years. Okay? So if you were to ride this just 10,000 kilometers a year or something like that, with relatively normal, not Olympic rider, it should not fatigue in the first 10 years. Now some will, because fatigue's nasty, it happens. But 10 years. For the professional rider, probably 5 years.
佢估計都明啦，佢 test 過證明應該佢嘅壽命啊，正常嘅單車同踩10年都唔會有呢個誤差嘅情況出現。
Interesting, carbon cranks. Carbon is good for making cranks. Carbon does not fatigue. It just disintegrates. It's catastrophic. There's never such a thing as carbon just getting tired. You have a crash and you can't find your crank. It's little pieces on the ground or something like that. But with metal, every metal combination has totally different fatigue structure, and we build for the fatigue. That's why we're in charge of making the crank. We just don't buy a Shimano crank and then put a power meter in it if we could. You've got to build the whole thing. You want it. It's got to have the stiffness, but it also has to have the give. If it doesn't have any give, you can't measure. So you can't measure a steel crank. It won't bend enough. Okay. So there's a bit of science behind the whole thing.
Sorry, one more question. Yes. You mentioned the 10 years and the kilometers is 10,000.
Oh, it's just the problem with fatigue is that it's very imprecise.
Yes.
And so and it's unexpected. Sometimes when we see a broken crank, doesn't matter whether it's a Shimano crank or whatever, the rider of course gets very upset. Whether it's ours or whether it's someone else, the rider gets upset as if this shouldn't happen. But this is live stuff. This is metal, and it's not. No, you don't know exactly what's inside everything all the time. So fatigue is inexact, and the tests are to try and take it beyond the normal use. Yeah.
即係佢1萬公里其實係隨口噏嘅又懷疑，所以佢只係話大約佢 test 過。Maybe you can tell us the data how many times you can 10,000佢哋嘅重量踩落去嘅力量 test 咗10萬次都冇問題嘅話，佢先至會。
It's also tested, just by the way, it's tested with a like a pedal in there. So it's actually, the crank, the crank is looking very, very bad. It's twisted right around every single time. 100,000 times.
雖然都提到啦 ，carbon fiber 係一種製造 crank 嘅好嘅 material 喎，咁但係點解係好少人？
佢頭先好似解釋咗，佢is it the carbon fiber we don't use it as because it cannot bend.
No, that's a good reason, but it's not. The reality is, some of you may have had carbon fiber cranks and you have seen them bend. I had a set of FSA cranks when I had an SRM, and I couldn't sprint on them because I could just see them moving so much. It just did my head in. I couldn't ride the cranks. But so carbon, if it's not built properly, it can do anything. Okay, but when you've got a strong carbon crank, it's a very strong crank. Now the problem for measurement in the carbon doesn't have anything to do with that fixed nature of it. Has everything to do with carbon is not a metal. It's not consistent.
Yes.
It's made up of strands of carbon filled with epoxy, and the epoxy has an entirely different property to the carbon. So if you were to measure it, you would have to be measuring the strands of the carbon. But most carbon cranks and things are just laid out in mats these days, and so their strands are all going in different directions. So it is impossible to get an accurate measurement when it's just impossible to get an accurate measurement. Yeah. So yes, it's not possible to get within 2% at the best if you're measuring carbon. Remember, to be clinical or to be able to be diagnosis, 3% is the limit. So now you've got to have everything going right for you, and all the carbon cranks are made in Taiwan or China, and they're all made by non-professionals. Now, I don't mean to be bad about this, but if you go into a carbon fibre factory in England, they have PhDs putting the carbon down. Okay? If you go into the carbon factory in Taiwan, it's someone who's just following a pattern. Pick this piece up, put it down here, do that. That's how the bikes built. That's how they build so many. There's no precision in the carbon.
簡單啲講重點兩個，點解唔可以用碳頂嚟去做呢個 measurement？第一，佢唔似得金屬咁樣，可能頭先好似見到個 stress diagram 咁樣，睇到啲紅色線係點樣行，因為佢carbon 係好大程度上用嗰啲樹枝中間黐住佢嘅嘢去拉住佢哋嘅，所以當你嗰啲力點樣走嘅時候咧，都唔係好似 metal frame 咁清晰地係有個 direction 係點樣走嘅。第二個問題就係 carbon frame 嘅話，因為個quality control 問題，啲 variation 太大，會令到嗰個讀出嚟嘅數據都唔準確嘅，所以佢 完全係可以卡嚟做
產品問題，佢有24mm 嘅芯同埋 M30嘅芯嘅，佢點樣比較呢兩隻嘅芯
？24mm axle and 30mm axle. Your product has both.
We have the two variants for the road, and this one is the special British cycling one for the track, and then the normal one on the track has a 24mm cartridge, ISIS cartridge. The first thing is what they say. When I say what they say, what you normally hear. The 30mm axle is alloy, okay? And you can, because it's 30mm, it's wider, it's about the diameter like that, 30mm. You can build it in alloy, and it's lighter, and it's stiffer than steel. Stiffer is not stronger, okay? They're different words to an engineer. Don't ask me the definitions, right? Because I'll get them wrong. So 30mm is stiffer than steel, but Shimano only build in steel. So most bikes have a bottom bracket designed for 24mm, which is the Shimano standard. I'll explain a bit more after that. So if you just, the difference between 30 and 24, alloy and steel.
Alloy 就
Alloy, yes, alloy.
混合金。咁佢混合金咁30咧，佢大家都知道，總之有兩種。
佢粗啲咯，係啊。
咁佢話24芯嘅話咧，通常係用鋼做嘅，而30芯咧個好處咧就係可以輕啲，而咧應該係會 stiff 啲嘅。咁佢頭先講過stiff 啲唔等於強啲啦。以我所知嘅 stiff 嘅 definition 咧，其實即係代表你俾幾大力 bend 佢個嘢，究竟有幾大去唔會咁容易 bend 佢咁解嘅。咁當然你個嘢厚咁多，好似工字鐵咁樣樣，當然係會個抗拒嗰個扭度係會勁啲啦。
So the idea is this is a 24mm crank. You can see it's not so big. The spindle is not so big. That's 24mm and steel. So the steel is heavy, and it's not supposed to be as stiff as the alloy, which is lighter. However, the alloy crank has to have a bigger hole here, so it's more built up around here. And so they actually the two cranks, the 24mm and the 30mm, weigh exactly the same grams. And we have never been able to find a difference in stiffness on the cranks, even though this is a thinner crank here than the 30mm. So everything that everyone says, we haven't found it to be true. This crank here, the British cycling one, that is 35mm. Okay, not 30 but 35.
Yes,
that's built in titanium. Okay, lighter, stiffer, stronger than everything else. But we could have built it in carbon. At 35, you can actually could build the spindle in carbon, but no one actually wants a carbon one, so we just didn't build it. But we built this in titanium for British cycling. Very, very expensive, very hard to do, which is why they pay so much for their cranks. But once again, that's because of the so-called science that says that going here adds stiffness. As I said, we haven't found any stiffness. Even though we've built this, we haven't found any extra stiffness. We can't see it in any numbers, and it doesn't change the weight. In fact, their crank is heavier than anyone else's crank. Okay, but that's the way it is. Cycling's full of what we call BS. Bicycle science.
Sorry, his question is actually the different diameters, does it affect the accuracy and which one do you think is more accurate?
The accuracy is like
冇影響嘅，就算24芯同30芯。
You can change anything here. You can change the chain rings. You can change the spindle. You can do anything. If you change the length, we can change the number so it's accurate. Because it is the length matters. But change pedals. Just make sure your pedals are the same ones, same on both sides. we've had people ride at races with one with a titanium spindle and one with a steel spindle, and the numbers are wrong. You can't do that. You can't have different weight on each side.
我想問咧，如果用呢個 power meter 裝啲非圓形嘅磁片咧，會唔會對個讀數會有影響咧？What about the eclipse?
Very good question. I wondered when that one would come. That's a good question. Two answers. Don't ask me which is best, because you don't want the answer. But no one has ever measured whether those chain rings are better than circular chain rings, because they haven't been able to. The first people to do it will be us, but we still have to do something a little differently to do very accurately. And that is, we have to be able to measure the crank turning round every degree of crank. And we can't do that at the moment. Okay, we probably will do it in the next couple of years, probably after the Olympics. But we can't do that yet. So everyone just makes things. Oh, this is better, this is better, this is better. It is not able to be measured. If you put non-circular rings on here, which you can do, the result will be consistent, but it will not be true. Okay, you will get the same result every time, but it will not be true. And we don't know, no one knows what the error is. Okay, because no one's ever measured them, because you can't measure them unless you have all that data plus extra. That's the true answer. If you want to know what I think about them, that's a different answer.
我簡單啲講下，佢認為冇辦法好清晰知道究竟左邊係會好過右邊嘅，除非你可以直頭可以量度得到每一個 angle 嗰陣時候，佢轉緊嘅時候嗰個數據，因為你數據人係會不停咁改變㗎嘛，係咪先？咁如果佢要證實左邊係有效過原片嘅話咧，佢一定要有方法係每一個轉嘅時候個 angle 嘅數據去比較。佢話咗可能奧運會之後，佢下一個方向性就係會嘗試做呢個研究，就係每一個 angle 都可以讀得到嗰個 power 嘅數據。咁到時候咧，佢哋就可以比較左片係咪真係會可以 effectively 掟佢自己。
It is worth saying that when you look at the chain ring, the circular chain ring is not right for the action, but a non-circular ring is only right twice on its way round, and that twice changes depending where you're sitting on the seat or if you're off the seat. And so the non-circular ring is going to be right sometimes, and this is wrong all the time, but it's the best answer. The answer is best most of the time, if that makes sense, whereas the non-circular is wrong most of the time. That's the technical answer. The physiological answer is that as you push down, the ring is bigger there, and so you're pushing down with more power, and you're getting a rest where it's flatter, and so you're pulling up. That's true. Because this is now mathematical, you can work this out. And the rest is around about 3% on a properly shaped one, not a Q ring, a real one, like the type that Froome uses. Okay. Now, so there's 3% less energy required on the whole rotation. Energy equals watts. And so Rotor and people like that say, well, that's 3 watts, you've got 3 watts more. But the watts, the maths, something wrong with the maths, because the watts don't work out like that. I'm not sure where they've gone, but it doesn't. You don't have 3 watts.
Did you say
3? You don't have. There's no free ones, and the 3 watts that you get according to the measurements, they're not there. There's no extra watts whatsoever.
But did you save it?
No, you can't save it. You can't save energy. It's being used. But they don't know where. I think I know, but technically, in the scientific papers, they do not know where it is.
簡單啲講，如果純粹以數學同科學嘅嚟講睇圖片啦，雖然 Rotor 話會大3瓦，其實可能真係大咗3瓦嘅，但係嗰3瓦去咗邊一度，係咪推你嘅單車向前咧？係冇辦法證實嘅，即係有可能你係大咗3瓦，但係嗰3瓦未必一定可以幫得到你踩得快啲嘅。
但係佢如果量度嗰個係 tangential force 嘅話，咁如果佢用圓片同橢圓片，而佢假設個功率係一樣，個速度快咗，咁咪即係橢圓片快啲咯。
His question is if同樣嘅功率喎，same output。
Between wing, you've got a faster hit speed as a result.
That's correct. That's part of it's going. Part of the chain ring, part of the revolution is faster, and part is slower. So without going into deep detail, I'll give you my answer to where the 3 watts. So the saving is 3%, say, but no one gets the 3%. And the answer is because in a normal pedal stroke there's virtually always negative. And as a result of that, the body is getting a rest here. And it's the rest that actually enables you to keep pedaling. Now, I tested this for a year in actual life, okay, with proper ones. And if you don't mind, I'll tell you the story, just as briefly as I can. So I test lots of stuff. So I put on the non-circular rings because people wanted them, so I thought, well, I don't sell anything that I haven't tested. And we put them on for a whole season, and I trained a very solid block when I used to race a bit. And I just got tireder and tireder and tireder, much more tired than I was expecting. And on the second last day of the training block, I dropped the chain for the last time. It was up at the top of a mountain, it was freezing cold, the chain was stuck in here, and I ripped the crank off the bike when I got home, and I have no idea where it is. Must have given it away to someone because I don't have the chain rings or the crank anymore. And the next day, the last day of a 6-week training block, I went out and did the ride I'd done a few days before, and I was just going to take it easy. My legs are tired, I can hardly walk, I'm exhausted, and I went 12 minutes faster than I'd ever done before with tired legs. You can't do that. It's not possible. I was so tired. All of my normal training rides were slower. They were getting slower and slower over the 6 weeks on the non-circular rings. And then I just put it onto a crank with circular rings, and I was flying for one day. I thought, interesting. That helped me work out what the issue was. When you're pushing down on the non-circular rings, all you are doing is training this bit. That's why I'm so tired. So by the end of 6 weeks, I'm totally exhausted. But if I was Chris Froome and I did it for 3 years, I'm going to be a really strong rider. Okay? Except I've got a job to do, I can't ride the bike. So training this bit and taking less rest there, but it didn't work for me. But because I had actually got stronger, and this is now going into some real physiological technicalities, even when you're totally exhausted, you can actually ride really fast. Not for long, but you can do it. As soon as I got into this routine and got my rest back, I was going really fast. As I said, in the end, I never put the rings back on. There is no 3%. It's all encapsulated in the amount of time that you get to rest. And the thing about the non-circular rings is they don't give you the rest time. They shorten the rest time. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. It just means you need to think, why is this happening? Sorry, that's a long explanation.
I'm going to make a shot.
Good on you, Arthur, you're a hero.
OK，我估大家都明㗎啦。其實基本上嗰3% 係喺你嘅休息嘅時間嗰度抽上去上高嗰度。咁當你不停咁 train 強個 part 嘅話，咁當然佢會勁啲。但係同時間嘅休息嘅時間係短咗嘅。換句話講，係啦。咁所以基本上喺一個長遠嘅情況之下嘅話，未必係有着數嘅。咁但係佢話都唔係完全冇用嘅。例如你不停咁 train 嘅強嗰度嘅話，咁你係會 train 到你嘅肌肉係強啲嘅咁樣。咁但係你可能踩長途嘅話，你就應該要考慮用翻因為 eventually 嘅嘢，佢都話佢嘅實際情況係快12分鐘。咁嘅話尤其當你越嚟越攰嘅時候，呢個肌肉可能係越嚟越勁。
By the way, Chris Froome saw our agent in South Africa the other day, and the agent was riding with him and was showing him the InfoCrank, which he had never seen before. And Chris Froome said, "Gosh, I need one of those. This thing is shit." Talking about what he's got. So that tells you, firstly, that Chris Froome doesn't know how much power he's got either. He's like every professional. He's just riding. He rides incredibly well. But he's just riding. He doesn't know his numbers. He's not looking at the thing.
我有個產品問題，依家可以有場地車嘅功率計同埋公路車嘅功率計，咁幾時會生產一個山地
？Yeah, you have the road bike versions and track versions. When are you going to start with them?
Good question. We've started work on the mountain bike one. We're supposed to do it for British cycling before the Olympics. So we have a problem. We've solved the problem, but that it's a design issue. A mountain biker bounces up and down on the cranks. We're measuring torque. Every bit of this bouncing is torque, but it's not power. You don't have any power unless you turn the crank up. So we've got all these measurements of torque, but people are interested in the power number. And if he rotates like that, it gives a very quick power number because the crank might think that it's done that. And so the power number is wrong. The torque is absolutely 100% correct, but the power number is wrong because it thinks it rotated, because the crank doesn't know that it didn't rotate. On a road bike, it's not a really big problem because occasionally that's going to happen, depends on your riding style. But on a mountain bike, it's happening all the time. So we're not prepared to put a product in the market where we have to explain that to people all the time. Because the first thing a rider says when they get a spike or something is, that's a crap product. And it's not the answer, it's actually the riding. It's what we're measuring. So that problem is now solved. And the way that it's solved, but it hasn't been implemented, is the best way of putting it. And that's through the measuring device that measures the crank angle. The same thing I was telling you about to solve this problem. Okay? But it's theoretically it's not invented yet. But we've worked out how to do it. And there are ways of doing it, by the way, but they're not commercial. You've got to do a way that you can repeat lots of times, because British Cycling already do it, but they're sticking little pieces of aluminium on the crank, and they've got a little laser, and it just clicks it off. But if I sold you a crank with little pieces of aluminium sitting on there, you'd think that I was a trickster or something. That's how they do it for Olympics and things. But we've got to be smarter than that, and it's more difficult. So that problem we think it's solvable before the Olympics, and we're planning to do it. The other ones are really interesting and actually far more complex. No one thinks it's possible, but we've done it. If you have a look at these cranks, everyone, you can see that they're pretty close to straight. that should remind you what we're measuring. We're measuring the force as you push the bike forward. We're measuring in a straight line where the bike's going. The bikes are getting wider here, but they're getting wider here as well. To have the disc brakes and everything, the chain stays are coming out here. And so the cranks have to go out wider. Everyone talks about Q factor, but now the cranks have to go out further, okay, because they're building the bikes bigger. But the problem with a straight crank is that when the bike comes out, it's going to hit. But the problem with the power measurement is no one has ever measured something before where you weren't measuring in the direction you were going. So when I told the Germans in Berlin about a year ago that we had actually cracked that and we could do it, they said, no, it's not possible. It's not possible to do. I said, but we've done it. No, you can't do it. I said, we've done it. So we've cracked that one. So now this crank is different to any other crank. It starts off straight here and then it comes out here because this is the measuring part. But we've worked out how to get it so that this part comes out and then the crank straightens out here to fit the modern bike and of course the mountain bike. The mountain bike is wider. So so they're the two issues holding up the mountain bike. It's not because we just don't like mountain biking or something like that. They're very, very technical issues, and one of them has never been solved before. But our design for the crank is that we're expecting the crank to be able to come out 10 degrees. That's a big number. But I was going to do it with the track crank, but the track crank had so many risks. We had to measure such high torque that I couldn't afford to put another risk into the crank in case it didn't work. So otherwise it would have been in the track crank. That's the long answer, technical answer, the true answer.
I try to make it short.
Thank you.
OK， 基本上mountain bike 有兩個面對兩個最大問題就係一個就係唔係長時間向前滾動，有陣時候佢哋會需要喺上高平衡。咁當你平衡嘅時候，你只係讀得到力量嘅數據，而讀唔得到 time 電 翻嚟個 power。咁而會引致到佢有啲錯誤嘅數據就出嚟嘅。咁佢其實之前都講過啦，如果假設好似頭先講坐餅嗰度嘅時候，如果佢哋可以讀得到個 angle 嘅情況之下，同時間讀到個數據嘅話咧，咁你就算唔係向前滾動嘅時候嘅話咧，個數據都可以校翻啱佢嚟做正確嘅，佢知道你唔係向前滾動。咁佢嘅情況之下嘅話咧，咁佢就可以讀翻正確個數據俾你，或者佢可能淨係俾個 torque 你，而唔俾個 power 你。第二個問題就應該係咪個mountain bike綠色係咪要車架闊啲？車架闊啲，佢要飛出嚟嘅。咁當你飛出嚟嘅時候，個餅唔係垂直向前嘅時候，讀出嚟嘅數據就變呢啲嘢，係啦，又唔係咗嗰個垂直向前嘅方向。咁而家佢哋嘅新嘅方法就應該係量度嗰 part 係垂直嘅向前，跟住再向外過咗個 measurement 個 part 之後，先至向外搞嗰個區。咁佢話而家mountain bike向緊呢個方向行，希望大約奧運會之前就可以完成到解決到個 technical。
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
我5分鐘一個鐘。